entertainment purposes only. I mean, I did do research, like so many good YouTube channels out there now. So much great content about this subject matter we're going to talk about. And the red pill kind of moment I've been having lately, that it's kind of obvious. We knew that there is a small group of people that consider themselves elite, right? And anybody that's been on the internet for any amount of time has came across conspiracy theories or what is called a conspiracy theory when it comes to all of this, like who is the shadow government that really rules the world. Sorry, that's a tongue twister. And I doing more research just came across more and more evidence that, like, I can't say enough right up front. We're not talking about Jewish people as a whole. We're not talking about all Jewish people. Hey, Thomas, how are you? There are extremists that are like the bad apples in any group of anything that you could think about, like any religious group, any profession. There's always going to be some people that like ruin it for the rest of them, right? And there's so many different groups of Jewish people. And like when the term Zionist is used, I think it also goes further. There's certain groups that are the it's not just one group necessarily. It's like the Chabad is one. Excuse me, Jared Kushner is considered a Chabad. I'm still kind of confused. What it's like, like a family. My dog is on my tripod. Sorry, Bubby, you're making my camera shake. And then there's the Hasidic Jews, and then there's like this mixture of like the Kabbalah and more New Age stuff, and that's what turned into the Noahide laws, which we've talked about on this channel. And just like it takes a while for it all to sink in. Thomas said Little Rockefellers, Bilderberg, Zionist, Saudi, Princess Royal families. Yeah, wow, yeah, I didn't know. Well, Little Rockefellers or Rockefellers. Yeah, there's so many ties, and even when people you'd be surprised how many times you look things up and it's like, "No, they weren't Jewish, but they had some Jewish in them." Like, so often that shit happens, and I found this ritual. I'm all over the place, I'm sorry, this is gonna be extra. I'm probably gonna be repeating myself a lot too if we get more people in the chat, but it's became so obvious to me more and more lately, and there's a lot of people making great content. Beryllium is one channel, he's made such great content delving into all things Zionist, some of the different groups of Jewish people that are the extremists that, like, ruin it for the rest of them. I know that there's not all Jewish people, and I'm going to be saying that a lot because I can't stress that enough. The whole point is we have evolved or should have evolved to the point where we're not being that like tribalistic, the bad part of having a tribalistic mindset where you look at other people that aren't like you and you say you are bad. I'm better than you because you're not like me, and only people like me are really worthy of like existence or anything, and not being slaughtered. And like, we should all be past that, right? And it's like, wow, I really wouldn't have, if you would have told fifth grade Lydia, that's my name, if you didn't know, reading Anne Frank, that when I'm almost 40 years old, we're going to be going through this certain group of these people committing genocide and ethnic cleansing in the Middle East. And and it's going to be anti-Semitic if you say anything about it, and it does seem like the tide is changing a little bit lately as far as like the things that are okay to say, but we have to keep in mind there are literal laws that Trump put into place in his last term that are like, to protect Jewish people. And it's like, once again, not all Jewish people. Everything I say that is a criticism to a practice of these certain groups of Jewish people, there's other Jewish people pointing and saying the same kind of criticisms. There's like Jewish people speaking out about these things too. Rothschild too. Yes, Thomas, you're right. Nathan Rothschild, Thomas said. CBT, hi, how are you doing? I'm doing good. Yeah, it's like a tapestry thing, but yeah, isn't it cute? It's little, my husband, he's so sweet. He said, my dark hair would look better on a lighter background, and it's like something we already had. Ugh, sorry. I'm like, can't really. Of course, the black light isn't as cool as my last background. Hi, the MMA Unk. How are you? Stop to spread positivity. Hope you had a wonderful day. Have I? Oh, you too, broken one. Thank you. He started the international banking reform and stock market trading between him and his brothers. Was in France, one was in Germany. Nathan was in England, and that's when you had the old empires. Yes, Thomas. I know I've heard all of that before, but I couldn't have rattled that off the top of my head. So thank you for adding that. It's so interesting how the power has been in such a handful of people, you know? Um, really, the MMA, everybody in West Asia is more Semitic than most Israels. I'm good. How about you? Oh, I'm doing good. Yeah, right. The term Semitic, a lot of people don't know. It's like they've they've taken so many things and tried to like make it their own that aren't their own, even food. They're, once again, I'm gonna turn this off because it just makes me look kind of blue on that one side. Not all Jewish people, I can't stress that enough, but there's like a thing in Israel where they're like trying to act like they came up with like olive oil and shit. I'm joking when I say that, but they're like talking about shawarma and like delicious Israeli food, and it's like that's not. Anyways, um, to really come to terms with it's like another red pill moment, and we went through it, a lot of us at least during COVID, where you really realize how corrupt the government is. And even if you don't know, if you don't feel like it's a higher power that simulates our reality is definitely highly simulated. And the fact that like we are just made to be modern day slaves of these oligarchs, these billionaires. And it's something that is unsustainable that can't last. And that's what we're at the end of this cycle. And to really see, like, wow, we were told like Muslims were the problem. And yes, there are extremists too in Islam, but there are people that take it to the extreme and aren't good people. But it's not Islam, it's not Muslims that are the problem, and it's really interesting, like, when it comes to animal sacrifice or people sacrifice, human sacrifice, there's so many groups of people that practice this, so I'm not trying to single them out once again, but, like, it's something that used to happen, it's undeniable, it's, like, in the Bible, and, when I make an edited video about this, I will include the source of this quote. It was like a paper by a rabbi, and it said, "No Jew known to publicly offer any kind of animal sacrifice or offerings. There are Orthodox Jews in Israel who practice the techniques of ritual sacrifice so that the knowledge will not be lost." What exactly does that mean? The techniques, are they actually doing ritual sacrifices? And let's just hope they're talking about animals. And like, because it was a known thing that they would sacrifice to Moloch and Baal. And this was way back, and they claim not since the year 70, which is really interesting. They know that it was that year, right? But then you have quotes like this from a rabbi saying, but they still practice the technique, so the knowledge isn't lost. Why do you need that knowledge? Like, and we are considered these same people that believe in that, the extremists, we're considered less than, we're considered the scum of the earth because we don't do. And bestiality was also a big problem. Once again, I know that was a thing in other places with other groups of people too, you know. Um, yeah, it's not about Jews, it's about Israel. I am Iranian and we have a big Jewish community, and it's not a religious thing, it's a political thing. Hey, that's so neat. I hope you're doing make military machinery and bullets melting down all the metal, said. The MMA funny thing is the extremist Muslims like the Wahhabis are actually allies of Israel. ISIS is a product of Israel in the US. Yes. Oh, it's so thank you, Mr. Kerry. It's so crazy how it's all been done by design. Thomas, I miss that portrait with the rainfalls and rainbows where you put the Alfie. Yeah, I probably will put that up one day, Thomas, and it look like you're from Lord of the Rings, the elf goddess. That's funny. I have this like flower headband. I was thinking about going live tomorrow just so I could like it's like a Cinco de Mayo-ish. But like fake flowers. But anyways, something that I learned about, once again, Beryllium. He's a great channel. There's been so much great content lately. It's almost like the floodgates have opened. Do any of you agree with me? It's like it's finally okay to say what so many people like have the guts to say, but only really a kitchen table talk or like in like a roundabout way. Now more of us can be like, in my opinion, October 7th, the most horrible thing about that was that they did that. They let that happen to their own people, in my opinion. You can't explain it many other ways. They're complete catastrophic failures, and they had like some of the tightest security of any, and like to. to go to claim that you need this country to practice to be safe because you're not safe anywhere else, but then you plop yourself down right in the middle of like your enemies. Like none of it makes any sense. And because so many people are so good, because so many people want to just live their life and live and let live, they got away with so much for so long. But now it's like people are saying, like, no. And once again, not all, this isn't an attack on all Jewish people. You can't help what you were born into, or even whatever happened to you in your life that made you convert, if you wanted to convert like before all of this. Um, Paxton, that's nice. October 7th was partly an inside job, the MMA said. Yeah, I just don't understand how it couldn't have been, you know? It's kind of like our story of 911. You know about how hard that would have been for a pilot to fly planes into buildings like that. Like that would have been technically, like, in a technical way, quite hard. And we're supposed to believe these official narratives that make that aren't very probable. Thomas, no, it's Saudi Arabia. You look at the 1900 or 17 of them were from Saudi Arabia. Oh, so to the United States, but then we invite them to live here. Yeah, I think that with the insurance claims on some of these properties, the way the third building fell down, I think it was a controlled demolition. And there's people who are engineers, like thousands of professionals who signed a petition and said, like, this didn't happen the way that they said it did. There's so much proof, we have other buildings that have the same steel frame structure that burns of fires and catastrophes. And then we have controlled demolitions and like it's just so sad. It's so horrible. It fractures people in a certain way. Like us going through that, we were taught like how everything was safer. People had to practice these drills where they hid under their desk during the nuclear war and the Cold War, and like things have gotten better since then. Was what was like implicated, and then it's well, not really. They kind of pulled the rug out from under us in 911. I was 14 or 15, 14 when that happened, and, it's really interesting how the difference, like, most everybody believed then, like, the internet was around, but it wasn't nearly what it is now, and it now, like, with the White House Correspondents' Dinner, I'm not comparing over 3,000 lives lost to that mess, but it's just like, I haven't found one person that believes it. Like, most people are calling it out, like, "That's really suspicious." They're still not really divulging, or correct me if I'm wrong, if that was friendly fire, the Secret Service agent that got shot, if it was, like, somebody that shot him from the Secret Service. In, the official report is like, the charges are weird. Um, it's like a weapon unloaded, but not being charged for, like, hitting somebody or something like that, and it's just supposedly Trump sitting behind a curtain watching the whole thing. Question there is saying people learn from their mistakes. If that's true, then why do people tend to make the same mistake? Oh, Kenneth, well, it's because people, I think that your like nervous system and the way that you're wired makes like it's kind of like I was listening to the story about an abused woman, and I'm just gonna be real. Like I felt for her. She did an amazing job honoring her children. Her children were killed by the husband that she had, and he killed himself. And like just talking about all the things that happen where it's like, "How did you stay? Why did you stay? Why didn't you leave?" We've all had those thoughts hearing certain things about a situation. He, like, threw a knife at her, and she's still making excuses for him even after all of this. She's still like, "It came open in midair when he threw it." It's like, "Girl, he threw a pocket knife at you. Don't try to make an excuse as to why it was so bad when it stabbed you." And, like, you can't you can't if you don't understand it, it's because you've never been in those shoes. I don't think that it is easy to explain or understand beside any other way. Your nervous system is just wired a certain way, and things probably happened to you when you were younger, especially that like and that's why I think it's really important to get that third voice. Like you had your emotions, you have um I guess it's like the second voice. Alan Watts, didn't he call it the third? It's like you're analyzing your own thoughts. And like a lot of people, I think men included, but I'm just talking about women because we're known to be like so irrationally emotional. A lot of women, they don't, it's not a good feeling to cry over a commercial, like, and not to be like in control of your emotions. A lot of women don't like feeling like that. And they do the self help that is necessary. Um, MMA said to Kenneth, human beings are a species with amnesia, as Terence McKenna used to say. Oh my gosh, that's so true when it comes to motherhood too. Like right after getting stitches from giving birth, you'll be like, when can I do this again? It's funny. Lucifer, believe in Jesus, rapture soon. That's funny. Lucifer is your name. No, I got no shame in saying that a spade, Thomas said. Hey, Chip, how are you doing? I'm doing good. I'm doing better now that I'm going live with you guys. Good points. I've never looked at it that way before. Kenneth said, hey, Jorge, how are you doing? Hey, sweetheart, pleasure to be on your channel. How are you doing? If don't mind me asking you, I'm doing really well. Been out in the garden a lot. I had somebody's give me the wrong date for a job interview, so just think good thoughts for me. Like it's not my fault. It really isn't, and I have proof that they told me one day, and then it was 5 days earlier, and then they call. They're like, "What are you? Are you going to be able to make it today?" And I'm like, "Oh." But you just have to know that, like, if it's meant to be, it'll be, and whatever happens, it happens for a reason, right? And that's what, like, so I think I'm sorry, I did a members only live, and I want to make sure I'm trying not to repeat myself too much. Um, I'm still coping with my father's death. I was crying and visited my father's grave today with grief, but it's all right. I have my vodka. Oh, Jorge. Hey, Stone Papa, how are you doing? No, I don't know Neville Goddard. I'm so sorry to hear that, Jorge. I am can go to a place like that. But I'm so sorry. Everybody that has ever dealt with grief before, and they say that like time heals all wounds. It's just something you learn to live with, and then it's kind of like it's worth it to have had that person in your life. But like I just really feel for people that because I know it's gonna be difficult for a long time. And oh hey Fendi, how are you doing? Hey John B, I'm so glad to see all of you guys. Let's think good thoughts for Jorge that he feels better soon. Just send some good thoughts his way. I like doing that. Mac and cheese or spaghetti? Oh, spaghetti, Antonio. Who's Zad Keel? Dad, you're being you're joking, right? Rose McGowan Mountain. I doubt it. Slice. No, how are you doing, Slices? I wish. She is always so pretty to me. Uh, Speaking of like evil, like she was one of the few people that did call out the shit in Hollywood, right? Where I hope she's doing well now. But I titled it what I did because I think it's really interesting coming full circle, realizing that, like, I think what was so shocking about Charlie's death was how it was the battle of good versus evil playing in our faces. And I'm really not trying to make Charlie out to be some martyr, but I think there was something so significant about him turning down that $155 million. And who would do that? Most of us wouldn't do that. But he knew. And, like, granted, he was sticking up for Israel and the genocide going on for a little bit of time, but he was beginning to speak out about it. He even said he didn't believe the October 7th narrative. And it's just like this was one of our last chances. You see how people are now on the right. They just parrot everything. Even, oh, this is why we need a ballroom. Like, and once again, yes, Charlie did do that somewhat, but he was really starting to stand on his own. And now what's happening with Turning Point is probably the exact opposite direction of what he would want to go. But it really made me realize, and I'm not saying that Christians are the only good people, but like good versus evil. And like we've been taught that Satanists, devil worshippers, all these things, it's like even the Church of Satan and the actual people that what is it, Church of Satan? And I'm sorry, I'm missing the second one. Satanic Temple. That's it. They don't believe a lot of the things that are in the Talmud, which is the collection of writings that goes along with the Torah. I don't know exactly who practiced Judaism and doesn't believe in them, but it's like something that definitely the most extremists do. And there's all sorts of crazy stuff in there, including Jesus is bathing in excrement for eternity in hell. That's how they talk about Jesus. But then, for so long we've been focusing on Muslims and their belief system. And oh, and the Talmud, it also says that a girl that's 3 years old is, like, suitable. I don't think they use the word consummation, but basically they're, like, saying, "Oh, no, don't do it with somebody who's under 3 years, but 3 years and 1 day is A-okay," and it's like, but, all the things they said about, Muslims marrying child brides, and I'm not saying that that doesn't happen, it's just once again, it's just there's bad people in every community that are just bad people. But the conspiracy theories about secret societies that we've been, a lot of us, at least I'm speaking for myself, I say we, but it's been in our face this whole time that like it's all been a distraction. The real secret society that controls everything, it is the Zionists, and they are downright evil. They practice evil shit. In the Bible, they say in the year 70 they stopped. It's like the Bible talks about how they sacrifice children and animals, and like this is a quote from a rabbi, okay? I'm sorry I don't have like the link for you, but this is a quote from a rabbi. No Jews are known to publicly offer any kind of animal sacrifice or offerings. Dot dot dot. There are Orthodox Jews in Israel who practice the techniques of ritual sacrifice so that the knowledge will not be lost. Okay, so do they do it or not? Or it's okay that a few do it so you don't lose the knowledge. Well, did you guys know that there's this custom? You can see it is in like Brooklyn, New York. They have this thing taking place outside Kaparat. It starts with a K, where they wave a chicken around their heads, and then that chicken is slaughtered, and they believe that their sins are transferred to the chicken. So therefore, when the chicken is slaughtered, it's like a fresh slate. They're like starting anew. And this is ultra Orthodox Jews. Once again, not all Jews. There are Jews who speak out against this, just like anything that could be said about any of these ultra Orthodox, extreme, the ones that perform the circumcision, and then the mole puts his mouth on the baby's genitals and like sucks the blood out that way. It's so disturbing. In the name of anything else, it wouldn't be okay, it wouldn't be accepted, and it shouldn't be accepted. At what point don't people say this is clearly a perversion that's taking place and like they're using religious freedom? Babies have died from that. I mean, just circumcision, but the act of a disease transferring when the man puts his mouth on a child like that. And these people, it's rings very demonic, very sacrificial. There's a certain kind of glee that comes over these people's faces. I'm just talking about videos I've seen on YouTube. If you look it up, you'll see what I mean. Like these molos or just the Orthodox Jewish men talking about circumcision. It like makes them so happy. It's bizarre. Whatever benefits you believe, whatever covenant of God you believe that it gives you, I don't understand the pure glee, and I've just it's crazy, and that is the evil, and the good versus evil. That is the evil in the world. They're the biggest source of it. They've been sacrificing people. They are the reason why our educational system sucks. Our medical, the people in control of everything are all the same. And it comes to legislation, entertainment, they somehow get their hands in it and are controlling it. And whenever somebody calls it out or starts to, they get like just like JFK, he was starting to say the same thing. And Charlie, and they know that these people are going to actually wake some people up, but like at a certain point, they can't keep doing that. That alone is going to be. You think Kirk is alive, Fendi? Oh, I didn't know you were one of those. I think it's possible. I just it would make a lot of sense for why Erica acts the way that she does. Slicer says, "I like Israel, I just don't like small hats." Um, Dad said he's in what? He's the indigo flame, helps heal emotional dysregulation. Erica Kirk is pure evil, slices. I'm not lesbian. My boyfriend says you're pretty, Nanda. Thanks. I think Charlie Kirk was an actor. Slices, I think he was to a certain extent. It was like how organically was he coming up with his own thoughts when he was 18 years old, having a billionaire hand him millions of dollars? Don't tell me he wasn't telling him what to say. You know that they were. And that's what I think, like, good for him for at least getting to the point where he was not going to just go along to get along and say exactly what they wanted him to puppet. He was a puppet in a way, but he also was like a human being, I don't mean that like he was worthless at all, but I think that he was starting to learn. It seems to me, I am just speculating, but like in the early mid 2000s, there were so many celebrities walking around with that red bracelet that was like the Kabbalah, and they would talk about it. Like specifically, there's an interview where Madonna is talking about, oh, it's Jewish mysticism. And I just picture, and I think the same can be said about like Scientology and a lot of um religions, like, they know that is something people feel good when they worship God in communion with other people, or some of us do. And they're trying to play off that and be like, oh, you know about this belief system? And this says that you can use the energy in the world and harvest it with these certain rituals. And like, especially for somebody that's of a celebrity status, it could be used in multiple ways, but especially being like, you will get more power if you attain, if you do these certain things, like that's what we've been doing. That's how we have all this power. Or like basically like this is why you are is well off as you are, and to maintain this, you need to keep doing it, or you need to go along to get along. And it's like so many people, even Tucker Carlson, and somebody asked him about it, and he said it was a red rubber band from his dad's newsroom. Even if so, that's still Kabbalah. That still is symbolic of that. And whether his dad was doing it or not, it's just crazy how many people. And it was like almost every single celebrity there for like 5 years. And so I think they suck people in, and they're not telling them, or maybe they are with some people, but they're not telling them that there's animal sacrifice, supposedly. They don't learn about all the things, and it's divided up so compartmentalized that it's easy to like pick your flavor of the Jewish mysticism. It's not even just like one, there's like split off into a lot of different radical groups themselves. And I'm not even sure about the Chabad people. That's what Jared Kushner is, exactly what they believe as far as their practices. I just know that they're super prevalent, especially in New York City. And it you start looking into it and just watch the videos in your algorithm. It's so there's this shorts where it's like in West Virginia, and there's this guy telling him, and he has a gun in his pocket, a Jewish man, an ultra, like I say ultra, an Orthodox Jewish man. He's got his gun on his hand on a gun in his pocket, and he's like telling this guy to get, and the guy's like, this is public easement. I think it was just like some little road. And the way he's acting, the comments, like, every comment was like, he thinks he's in the West Bank, or like, oh no, they're starting to do it here. Well, apparently there has been a lot of deed theft in Brooklyn for years now, but like that has been a thing with other groups of people too. But yeah, you really learn that they practiced animal sacrifice, child sacrifice, that a lot of the world believes in Christianity that Jesus was the ultimate blood sacrifice. And I personally don't ascribe to that, but I'm very open to it. And I'm not saying that I'm not a Christian. I do believe in Jesus Christ. And I think that it's really interesting that they're doing anything they can to like bastardize that. And the Noahide laws are something we've touched upon on this channel before. In the 40s, a rabbi said, we need to get our ideas into politics, because this particular, I don't want to say it, I think it was Hasidic. They believe that the faster they can hasten the end of the world, the better. They want to meet their Messiah. And one way to do that is to get everybody to practice like the things that they do. The only people who are really the chosen ones are other Jewish people, but as many people as they can get to do the things that they do, but especially other Jewish people, that is going to hasten the return of their Messiah. That's what they believe. So this was something signed into law, even though the guy like started saying these are the Noahide laws. I'm sorry, the chat got stuck. In the 40s, in 1991, George Bush Sr. signed in this law. I have it in a video that you can look up the seven Noahide laws, US law, and it says our country was founded upon these principles. And civilization would not be as strong as it was if it wasn't for these principles. But it doesn't say them. But then you look up the Noahide laws, and it's like something most people would agree to. And I didn't think this myself, but somebody else said one of them is don't eat animals that are alive. And it's kind of like, yeah, most people wouldn't have to be told that. And I know maybe, but then somebody was like, yeah, that just kind of shows how like animalistic they look at the rest of us as like the Ten Commandments, it wasn't like you can't eat an animal that's still moving and alive. And I thought that was super interesting, but also maybe even like a reflection, like a projection of sorts. But they infiltrated our legislation and said that our country was founded upon these principles that some rabbi came up with, like these tenets. I'm not saying that he came up with them or wholly on his own. He said, this is what I'm summing up our beliefs to. and the more people we can get, like, the better, and that's really interesting, um, and that's easy to find. Sounds like Hollywood, a bunch of cultists. Yes, Adam, for sure. Moloch worshippers, Dad said. 23 different personalities or emotions isn't like the movie Split, Thomas said. Um, knows nothing about Mother Earth, Polly said. Oh, thank you, Mackenzie. Jesus loves you. It is very weird, Polly said. Who are you talking about, Polly? Just like the Zionists? I'm sorry, Satanic Gross, Gusk said, Saturn worship dead. I find a lot of this very hard to believe, Thomas said. Yeah, it's easy. I don't know exactly what you're talking about, but when it comes to these rituals, it's easy to look it up. And once again, they make it clear. They're like, we haven't done any ritual sacrifices since the year 70. And I think that's super specific, kind of weird. And once again, most Jews, they are fans of the caparot, the ritual sacrifice of the chickens, where they wave it. Could you imagine? And I was thinking this earlier, like, I don't want to call Amish extremists because extremist kind of is assuming they are bringing terror to other people with their extreme beliefs, right? And Amish just want to like do their own thing. They don't bother anybody except for when they're going down the road and a horse and buggy and you need to go to work or something. But you know what I mean. They're good people for the most part, and they're not out there trying to make other people Amish or trying to say, and some of them, but like, you're not going to heaven and they are, yada, yada. But could you imagine if Amish people were out here waving chickens around their heads like this? And then slaughtering them, saying that their sins were transferred to the chicken. I think that, like, if it was Christians doing it, people would be more apt to call it out, and maybe I'm wrong, and I know that they have their certain rituals, but yeah, I totally believe that there's still some people, just like the rabbi wrote, well, the people don't do this, but some do it because they're just trying to hang on to the knowledge. Like that's the knowledge. They get a certain energy. They're not all of them, okay? The ones that like rise to the Zionist top, they're like so demonic. And yes, they do like blood sacrifice, in my opinion. And bringing it to this topic, which I touched upon briefly before. Hi, Jesus, how are you? Or Jesus, if you're a Jesus, I'm sorry about that. I was talking about Zadkiel and about Indigo Flame. I still don't know who that is, Dead Sled. Is that from the Torah? Sorry. I love Charlie. He was a go. Eric Cook is an actual psycho. Italian, if you're still in here, I agree with you. Oh my gosh. I think I'm no, I'm not Jewish, Slimmy. I think that he felt like it was time to get married, and it was one of those situations where, like, he wasn't super in love with her. He just had his green light on because that's how some men are. They're not ready to get married, and then when they're ready to get married, they are, and the next woman they find, they marry, Like, that's just the way a lot of men operate, and it it comes from a place of kinda being, like, not emotionally intelligent enough to know that you need to get with somebody you actually jive with in a certain way, not just somebody that looks good on paper. And women do that too sometimes, but it's just like a lot of women are more likely to get married sooner. And it's just like kind of funny. Like a man will just like not want to marry. And then it's just like one day he wakes up, he's ready to marry, and that next woman he meets is going to be who he marries. And I think that that was a thing with him. Like it was time for him to get married and have children. I'm not saying he was gay or asexual. It doesn't matter. I don't think it is anybody's business, but when it comes to conservative politics, conservative people, they often make things like that other people's business. And Erica Kirk, if you didn't know, there was a Erica Kirk, like in the 60s, I believe, there was a former governor of Florida who was also named Charlie Kirk. He was unmarried, and this is very not common even today. He got hired. He got voted in as the governor of Florida. He didn't have a wife, and he showed up to like the coronation, the inauguration with this woman on his arm like this is my wife, or was it fiance? And anyways, her name was Erica Kirk and she looked a lot like Erica Kirk, and it's certain things like that that I'm like, I'm not saying that she was a clone. I'm open to anything, but it's so bizarre. It's hard to believe that this was a coincidence. And once again, this is another uh Satanism, using that term loosely, is just like the evil that is the yin and yang, good versus evil. Satanism, like the worship of the opposite of what most people would consider good, being a servant to your community. And like, of course, you should take care of yourself, treat your body well, but the opposite of that would be to be like ultra selfish and to be greedy, to gain at the cost of other people in any way possible and just like not care about them. And that's what we're dealing with here. And it's where he stood on the edge, he's big outside. Yeah, I just so everybody knows, everybody's welcome here. I am a registered independent. Hi, TY, how are you? And I didn't love a lot of the things that Charlie said, but it made me really sad that we all lost him. So people are complicated and multifaceted, and I would have liked to hope to think that he would have grown out of some of that bullshit. And like the pilot thing, I'm sorry, that was so stupid and racist. And like pilots, you can't become a pilot easier because you're black. Okay, like they need so many, what is it, like hundreds, if not like a few thousand or something crazy. Like they need hours and hours and hours of training before they get their wings. And no, I don't think it's like so much easier. And if you wanna, like, harp on about stuff like that, I think we should all stand up for a I don't think it's right that Asian people have to work so much harder to get into Harvard and stuff. Why don't we ever talk about that and go at it from that angle, that it's just not fair that there's these, um what is the thing I'm trying to look to say? "Oh, hey, signing," said, "May the 4th be with you." That's so funny, I didn't realize that that was today. Thanks, Sabrina, how are you? What if I sacrifice a lobster, Italian? There you get a tasty meal, Dad said. There's no secret cabal controlling our government. This is just a conspiracy theory, Michelle. Michelle Hitchcock, I like your name. Um, so buttery lobster tail is very good. I had red lobster after I had my second kid. There was a red lobster by the hospital, and my husband got me red lobster. And every time I think about lobster, I think about that. How are you doing, TY? Love, love naysayer, like you will only realize when it's too late. Big Al said. See how conspiracies work now, Michelle. Here's your evidence. I can't speak for Michelle, but I think she was just being a little silly. But maybe not. Maybe she was being serious. Holly weirdos is what I call them. Yeah, I like saying Holly weird too. Italian. Or like that camp in California, what's it called? Bohemian Park. Yes, Thomas, where it's like 50 of the most powerful men in the world and you have to be invited to go there. You can't just go. Yes. And they do weird shit like put on, I don't know for sure, but don't they like burn an owl or put on owl masks? And it's things like that. Once again, we've been conditioned to not know the power of like, we are walking batteries. NASA has a camera that can see your energy field. And like, we're not taught about this. They don't want us to know because they don't want us to harness our own power. They don't want us to know how powerful we are. And like, but when they get in their groups together, they do all this weird like harnessing of energy shit. I got a lot of respect for the Amish Italian said, or like that. Oh, I already read that. Christian rituals are weird as fuck to you. Church be like, eat thy body and drink thy blood. Yeah, Italian, I know what you mean. And that's once again, I don't want to I go to church every once in a while. I don't want anybody to think I think I'm better. I'm just being completely honest. Like I can't honestly say I believe Jesus Christ was a person. I can't honestly say I believe he was born to a virgin mother. The Adam and Eve story happened the way that it did. I just don't feel it in my heart. And like I'm open to one day maybe I will wake up and genuinely feel that. And I'm not making fun of anybody who does, but I just can't call myself a Christian because I just can't um, and but yeah, it is interesting that he was, "Oh, hey, Donnie, how are you?" I also feel like Christians get caught out more often than in these other religions. Maybe it's just because I'm Christian, but I could only imagine. No, I agree. I think that we've been very conditioned to think in the satanic, demonic, to focus on like the Church of Satan. And I forgive me if I already said this, but the Church of Satan or the temple of satanic temple, they don't believe that Jesus Christ is bathing in excrement for all of eternity, like what's in the Talmud. And it's like they knew that they could divide and conquer us and just like we'd be like, I'm sorry, like monkeys throwing poo at each other or something, just like over our own beliefs. When meanwhile, yeah, it would be the people that that think that they're harnessing the energy. They don't look at it as good or bad. It's just like the two everything's a duality and a binary in this universe and they knew that like so many people. And yeah, they don't want us to know how powerful we are. And one rate they keep us down is this nervous system damage they're doing with everything since like the the pandemic, making us super stressed out. Okay, then thank you. Nice to see a woman that is a critical thinker. Well, thank you for that. Your dog is so or that picture is the picture. That's really cute. Well, thank you. There are a lot of men that are critical thinkers. I've said this before on my channel. I I have been diagnosed with PCOS, so I was a high testosterone for female for at least a little while. I think my hormones have balanced now. But are you calling me a jerk, James? So I'm not high. I drank like half a beer. Can't the woman say no? Chris said. What do you think about the statement, if you can't afford bread, eat cake? Patil said. You know, it's interesting. Are you talking about that let them eat cake? They say that that wasn't a thing, but like, I think that's so funny that she had a getaway that was like trying to be poor, like cosplaying as a peasant farmer. No, I never went to Bobby Mackey's. I think they tore that down too, Rusty. Clones exist. Advanced technology has always been ancient. I definitely think they're way farther ahead of us in what they've told us, so I would be open to it. When you see this woman, it's crazy, and I just think they put things like that in our faces to throw us off our own path. Like, the more you hone in your own, I think we can all be psychic to a certain point. Like, the more you hone your own ability, they want to confuse us. They want us to be like, "Oh, no, wait, oh, no, because the more you're like that, the less likely you are to be able to really use your instincts the way that you're supposed to. And I totally believe it's pretty interesting learning about the technology in the countries that were like, no, you're not allowed to do this anymore. But there's stuff going on out there. I don't even want to think about it. Charlie promoted conversation, something we desperately need. I do agree with that Italian. And he was, even the stuff he said that I didn't like, he seemed like a good hearted person, like in conversation, in my opinion. Oh, hey, Mr. Money, how are you tonight? The problem isn't Asian people having a harder time getting into Harvard. The problem is not investing in upgrading our community colleges. Mr. Money, you are right. Touche. I don't like goddamn marshmallows, Steve said. That's funny. I just pruned my marshmallow plant. It was getting so out of hand. It's a crazy perennial. Who chooses what poorly, Ben Boy? Even knows that Fendi said, listen to Paul Harvey's warning from 1965. He described exactly how it is today. Thanks for saying that, Scott. I will. I took a screenshot. How are you doing? To reject Christ as your savior is fatal for eternity. See, I respect that you believe that, but I'm just like, I can't say that that's how I feel deep down inside. But that's not to say that I'm not a Christ follower and I'm not like open to one day saying that, but I'm not going to say something just to say it because I feel like if I don't, I'm going to burn in hell. The God that I came from, that is a part of everything and everyone, I don't think that God, I don't believe that that would be a thing. So I was talking about, Steve, I was just talking about how in the battle of good versus evil, what is really, and like using the terms demonic, satanic is just like bad, right? Because even once again, this satanic temple, the Church of Satan or whatever, like even they don't like literally worship the devil, you know? They will be kind of like do as thou wilt, but even for the most part, they don't promote bad things. And it is kind of like a selfish thing, which could be bad, but it is the real demonic people, the real ritualistic sacrifices being made, in my opinion, are the Zionists. And they are the extremists. And, there's a lot of different groups of Jewish Kabbalists that pick and choose, and then they go and they do their weird little rituals. Remember in 2023 how those tunnels were found in New York City? There was a stroller and a bloody mattress in these tunnels, and they just like cover it up. And it's like back then, 2, 3 years ago, it was even more so like you can't say anything. You can't say anything. Trump made laws about like anti-hate speech in his last administration. Like they knew all of this was coming. They have all of this planned out for so long. Did you guys hear about supposedly he went to the dentist when he was in Florida and people were saying how weird that is because there's a dentist in the White House? They can like do almost anything there in the White House. Patil, ever thought of it this way? The bread to be produced perfectly, a factory needs to be fed, but for a cake that is pancake or dosa, a rice cake is simpler and more nutritious. Oh, no, I never thought about it like that, but that is a great point. CIA funded Palantir, and that's evil company is the end of freedom and privacy. Oh, Mr. Dunham. Yes, I agree. I saw the craziest video, Donnie. I don't have a wife either, but the girls I have met have not been the compatible personality for me, to be honest. It seems like a problem a lot of people are having. It's unfortunate for people that want a partner. There was a lady who think she was renting a car, and she said she got in the car, and the lady giving her the keys was like, "This is a brand new car. Like, you're the first one to drive this car. Isn't that cool?" And she gets in it, and she's driving for a little while, and then at a certain point, there's like this warning message. It's like, "We need to see your face. Like, sit up so we can see your face," because she said she's like a shorter woman, and she had been driving for some time, and she felt like she probably slouched a little, and then the thing was like, "Oh, we can't see your eyes, we need to see your eyes," and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, like, no, I'm sorry, I will go join the Amish and use horse and buggies before I drive a car that is like, 'We need to see your eyes right now.'" Like, life isn't hard enough. I was saying the devil knows that as well. Yes, when it comes to like Satan worship stuff that I'm talking about, Fendi, I think I know what you're talking about. But it's like all part of the plan. I think they do human sacrifices there, but I don't know. I've never been there. There's that one interview with a guy that said his friend was killed there. They drank his blood. Are you talking about the Bohemian Grove still, Thomas? Um, I think it's quite possible that happens way more. The missing children, the missing people, like it's really sad to think about. And I think that like organ harvesting probably happens way more than we hear about. All religions were made to control the masses, but Christianity is obviously the least bad. I don't know why I said it with that. Obviously, yes, Caden, I do agree with you, especially when it came onto the scene and you look at it in perspective of I'm sure there was, like, probably, like, natives, there was societies where the woman was, like, the head of the family, and it was very matriarchal, but, like, for the most part, a lot of populations were, the man has all control over his woman. I mean, just up until recently here, it was more accepted to like, domestic violence, and, um, that was just something you didn't talk about. And oh my gosh, marital rape wasn't even a thing. That wasn't even considered. And so to have somebody like Jesus say, treat your wife like the church and, love her, or whoever said that. He said, love your wife like Christ loved the church. I guess it wasn't himself because he said that, because they said like Christ. Um, oh, geez Louise. Do you think free will exists? Yes, Loomer. I think that there's a balance between like free will and like your destiny. And yes, the better choices you make, you will get signs that you are on the right track. That's what I believe. Like synchronicity is a sign that you are on the right track. Italian, y'all ever hear about the ball worship stuff? Sounded interesting. Yes. So like that's what, so whatever, and there's always that. I'm surprised somebody hasn't said it tonight. Jesus was a Jew. Jesus was a Jew. And there's so much to be said about like what group of people at what time you're talking about. But yeah, for a long time, and like Jesus called it out, he didn't do it with them, right? I'm sure we would have heard about that. They were sacrificing animals to Moloch and Baal. They were sacrificing children. And this rabbi, I read a quote from it. I'll just read it again in case some of you guys weren't here. Just him saying this says it all. This was in a paper I read. No Jews known to publicly offer any kind no Jews, I'm sorry, are known to publicly offer any kind of animal sacrifice or offerings. There are Orthodox Jews in Israel who practice the techniques of ritual sacrifice so that the knowledge will not be lost. It's like you literally just said no Jews do it, but then you say, okay, there are some in Israel. And what do you mean by like practice? That is the quote word for word. Now, there was a sentence in between sacrifice or offerings, dot, dot, dot. There are Orthodox Jews in Israel who practice the techniques of ritual sacrifice so that the knowledge will not be lost. And it's like, are you trying to say that they're not actually killing something? That doesn't make any sense. And I don't believe that these same people who, and I'm not judging parents for a choice they made when they were told by doctors and health professionals it was the best decision. But the same people that routinely strap down boys and that have this rite of passage into the world where the most sensitive part of their body is cut with no pain management. And then on top of that, the most extreme, there's a grown man putting their mouth on the boy. Like it's just from anybody from the outside looking in, that's so obviously wrong. So it just makes me wonder, what do they consider that? They have to consider that some kind of sacrifice. That was the whole point of Abraham circumcising himself, was like he was doing it as an offering to God, right? But it they didn't have scalpels back then. There's no way Abraham took off his whole foreskin. He wouldn't have been able to do that with the tools he had, and if he did, he would have, like, died or gotten an infection most likely, in my opinion. It's been speculated like that, and it makes sense to me. So to, like, remove the whole foreskin because of this covenant with God that, like, hundred thousands of years ago, some man could have even just nicked his foreskin enough to make it bleed, and that was, like, the ritual he did, and then it turned into this. I've heard some people say, I haven't seen this confirmed, but there was comments talking about how it is a thing to put a piece of it in your mouth and chew it. The way they said it was like you don't swallow it, a piece of it in your mouth and chew on it. Like I don't know if that was just something somebody was trying to spread around, but it's like it's not a far cry from putting your mouth on the genitals to stop the bleeding. Like, and I was just thinking about. Uh, I think that the way Charlie, like, practiced the Sabbath, that was another example of, like, somebody getting in his head and getting him to do the things that they did, just like the Noah like, they believe the more people do what we do and worship the way that we do, the sooner our Messiah comes, even if they aren't some of the chosen ones like us. And so, yeah, I do think that there's a lot of that going on, and that is evil, the inversion. They literally like invert things in front of us all the time on purpose in so many ways. It's been happening for decades. This is the real demonic forces. The Noahide laws, the circumcision. I just keep coming back to that. Like, I feel like they influenced that on purpose. And I can't find one person that was a big proponent of promoting it who was Jewish, to be honest. But I still feel like there was a lot of Jewish influence. And like, they like knowing that for decades, most boys had that done to them. That was some kind of sacrifice in their eyes. They definitely still practice that. Could you imagine if Amish people here or like I don't like I said, I don't like considering them as extremists. Westboro Baptist, if like any group of Christian people were waving chickens over their heads in the air and then sacrificing the chickens afterwards, like the things that people would say about them. And I am very like live and let live. How are you doing tonight, Donnie? The Church of Satan don't believe in the devil and they accept everyone, Mike said. Yes, that's what I've heard. They're more about and like I said, the selfish thing, but like I forget which one, there's different theology, but like there is some that's like committed. It's not just like just only do for yourself, but it is kind of like if you're not hurting anybody else and you get whatever satisfaction out of it. Have you heard the Kim Clement prophecy about Trump? No, I haven't, VW. They literally worship Baal. That's the number one enemy of God, Barry. Oh, hey, Barry, how are you doing? Yes, I have a marshmallow plant that's ginormous, and I'm gonna harvest some roots this year and make like old school marshmallow recipe. There's a few people that have done it already on YouTube, but I'm really excited about that. Yes, Lee Montgomery. I take kratom. And I have this bright light in front of my face, but it's probably the kratom. It was known throughout Jewish history that a sacrifice was made at the Holy Temple every year. That temple was destroyed in 70 AD. There hasn't been a sacrifice ever since. And those sacrifices you're talking about have nothing to do with Judaism. Okay, Edgar. Well, yes, I have mentioned that. I know you just got in here, but I've mentioned that a lot. It's been said that they haven't done any since 70 AD. I think that's very nice. They know the specific year, even though it was almost 2,000 years ago. And like read this quote from a rabbi that said, no Jews are known to publicly offer any kind of animal sacrifice or offerings. There are Orthodox Jews in Israel who practice the techniques of ritual sacrifice so that the knowledge will not be lost. And so I've seen for myself the caparot. There's videos of that on YouTube where they wave the chicken. And once again, there's Jewish people who speak out about all these things I'm talking about. So no, absolutely not all Jewish people. Absolutely not. But we need to quit living in trepidation of fear of being called anti-Semitic without calling out the truly demonic, satanic. I do think that there are people probably performing ritual sacrifices, and it's interesting to think of maybe could it be some of these extremists from any religion? But we're talking about this tonight. And not to mention the genocide going on. Like that isn't if they don't believe in sacrifices and they're like murdering tons of people, like that isn't some kind of sacrifice to them too. Why would they name themselves after the devil and be associated with that name if they didn't believe in him? Why not name themselves something different? Fendi said. Yes, ask the 109 countries if they sacrifice or not, Edgar, Barry said. Abraham used obsidian. Oh, Patil, that sounds, oh my gosh. Ugh, I know that can be very sharp, but that is wild. I didn't know that there was mention of the exact tool he used. I wish I wasn't circumcised. It's a sick thing we do to our children. Yes, Caden. And I'm sorry I didn't make the disclaimer, but when I talk about it, um, I am not trying to make anybody feel any way about themselves. I just hope that we can move forward for the future in a better way with knowledge that we have, you know? A lot of people, like my husband, I asked him, I was like, can I, like, if I talk about this, is it okay? I'm like, hey, circumcised, everything's fine. Everything is great. I don't need to dwell on what you can't change unless, of course, there's like a medical reason for it. But it is important. And I do have to pat the back of any man that can say, yeah, like, I wish that didn't happen to me. And you know, we're here for you. I just think it's horrible. I talk about the things that women go through that men don't have to go through. Like, it just seems like we go through so much. But then when you think like circumcision, it's like, man, that's a pretty significant. And I often wonder how that affected people as a whole. You know, up until the 50s, even like I think early 60s in certain rural areas, women were given scopolamine when they were in active labor, strapped to a bed, literally ankles and wrists strapped to a bed while they gave birth, woke up the next day, didn't know what was going on because they didn't remember anything, bruised all over, have this, you know, be all drugged up, probably have a drugged up baby. I don't know. You know, they say all these things don't get to the baby. It doesn't make any sense to me. Like when you're in labor, like the epidural and stuff. So anyways, that why did I bring up the labor and scopolamine? Oh, the things that people have been through, I do think that traumatic births affect people more than we give them credit for. And once again, not to dwell on it, but like it helps you move forward with healing. And you know some of these things. And I'm sorry, I'm like starting. I didn't even finish my one beer that I started before I got on here. This person doesn't know what Judaism or the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob is, not those phrase Pharisees and rabbis that corrupted Judaism. Why do you think they created the Talmud? Edgar, if you can't understand, we're not talking about all Jewish people, okay? And I've said that literally like 10 times. We're not talking about all Jewish people here, okay? There are extremists and there are absolutely people that believe in the Kabbalah, Jewish mysticism. Edgar, can we talk about the moles that put their mouths on little baby circumcised penises and suck the blood off of them? Do you think that's okay, Edgar? Are you going to say that's religious freedom, that that should be allowed to happen? That it's undeniable. And once again, no, not all Jewish people. There are Jewish people that speak out about the practice I just said. There are Jewish people that see it for the horrific thing that it is, and they don't want it to happen anymore either, Edgar. But I'm surprised it took this long. Weren't they burning the books of Jewish literature? What are you talking about, Thomas? Like where at? Well, there was this Jew who made a quote about their father is Satan, and other Jews don't want to admit Fendi. Like that happened recently. I don't know when the last time I skinny dipped was. God, Barry, remember the book burning in 1931 Germany? Look up what they were burning. I've heard different things about that. I've heard some people say that they were burning like adult media for some reason. But I'm so I don't know. Circumcising is bad actually though, because that part of your body is very sensitive to any kind of touches. Your thought directly goes there, and keeping it open your whole life is not a thought directly come out of mind. It goes down and then comes out. Patil, yeah, I don't believe in cutting off healthy functioning tissue, period. And the way that I don't know where you're from, but like we are one of few countries where it was just like a routine thing. And they make a lot of money off of it. They use the little baby foreskins and all sorts of different products and things. That's crazy. Weren't they burning the books of all the Jewish? I already read that. Thomas said that. Hi, Dev. How are you doing, Dev? Why are so many obsessed with Jews? It's weird. You really think Jews are the root of all your problems? No, but I do think that they've tried to like, okay, so I think it's super interesting that there's one sect of Jews that made the Noahide laws. Do you know about the seven Noahide laws? And when you've grown up as an American being told that there's a separation of church and state, you're not allowed to say happy Halloween in school. You have to say happy fall festival. Like then in 1991, there was a law signed into place that said our country was founded upon these seven Noahide laws. And it might not mean anything to you, but that's why you need to be with it enough to be able to realize, okay, but it means something to these groups, this group of people. It means something to these psychopaths that are the same people who cut a baby's foreskin off and their first thought is to put their mouth on it. And anybody who is gonna be, "That's okay, it's ancient rituals," it's like, no, that's no, we're more evolved, we're better than that, and the more I learn about a lot of these practices, the more I'm like, we have been conditioned to, like, look straight past it and, like, think it's okay because they're the ones that went through the Holocaust. It's not okay, and more people are saying it. I don't care who doesn't agree with me. If you are, you know, gonna side with the country that's committing genocide and just like focus on the anti-Semitic stuff, it's not gonna work anymore. There's too many people that are standing up and saying, no, it's not anti-Jew, it is anti-Zionist, it is anti the extremists that are ruining it for the rest of us. And yeah, they are pretty much the root of all our problems. When you think about the corrupt corporations, all the money in APAC funding most of our politicians, and like the things that they want, it yes, it comes down to our medicine, our food, our educational system. It goes deep. It is so much, and that's why people have to be so quick to call you a hater if you call it out, because that's the only defense they have of this. Um, and if you don't say in a certain way, that's advisory, genders and Patil said. Barry, Books of Magnus, Hirschfield, and stuff like that. The one and only Abraham was going to sacrifice his own son. You don't think he sacrificed animals? Yeah, it was a known thing that there was a lot of animal sacrifice back then. And they claimed that they stopped in the year 70. Once again, like that is I mean, okay, if you're okay, they know the year 70. Okay. Like, okay, I'm sorry. But there's always fringe extremists, and this is what we're talking about. It's not like, no, all Jewish people do this on this holiday. No. Kim Clement prophecy is from 2007. He passed in 2016. He said Trump would be president and prophesized 2027. Oh, that's interesting, VW. Have you heard of that book that was written in like the late 1800s or was it early 1900s where it like talks about Baron Trump and like all the coincidences in that are pretty crazy. Um, because everyone is starting to notice their lies. The one, yes, Barry. I didn't know this myself, but I didn't know women can be circumcised. Not too many women get it, but it's pretty gross. Oh yeah, Thomas. Actually, there's like self-sacrifice. You're funny. There's a lot of different forms of female genital mutilation. That's what we call it, right? I know some women do get like cosmetic surgery to which is so sad. It's sad to me. I think there's probably, once again, like extreme cases where it's medically warranted, where it's more of like a deformity of something or something. And I'm not trying to make anybody feel bad. I'm just saying if it's like if it inflicts you while you're walking or something, but like it is something that a lot of people go through as or forced into as a child, which is extremely disturbing. And so all around the world, when there's female genital mutilation, and some of it is like a step up from the circumcision we're talking about with ritual infant circumcision. Absolutely. They're like cutting so much off and then sewing it up and making it so they're prone to infections when they get their periods and everything. It's so sad. It's so horrific. But we can see that for what it is. Like, technically you cut some of that off, you're going to reduce infections by 1 to 3%, but like we don't do that. We have like half an aisle at the store dedicated to cleaning our foreskins. But, I do think I don't say it well enough because I don't wanna make anybody feel bad about themselves, but I do think it was like a ritualistic sacrifice that they as in extremists, not all Jewish people. Once again, there's Jewish people that are against circumcision. There really are, you can look it up. There's Jewish people that don't believe in having that bris this after the 7 days, 7th day or whatever. Muslims in Africa do that, Thomas Berry said. Some other tribes do too, yes, and it's sad there's even and think about, like, the doctors there's doctors that are performing that shit here, there are. There's doctors that are in the Epstein files that they tons of proof, like, there's this one guy that still works at Mount Sinai in New York, and he was stitching up this poor young girl, there's this picture of him stitching up her head, and it's, like, from this angle where you can't see anything, but you see her fists are clenched, and she's, like, on a table, supposedly had an ATV accident, And so they're doing favors, exchanging favors. Epstein's donating to wherever, and so he can get medical exchanges and favors from these certain doctors. The corruption like that. But then meanwhile, like if me or you has like a $3,000 credit card we default on, we can get sued. But it's like these evil people, they just like get to and once again, a lot of it is energy. They just believe. They believe they deserve all of this. They float through life and they don't care. And that's one way they get like attract each other. And you're talking about males that got circumcised. I didn't want to be circumcised, Thomas said. Well, I'm sorry to hear that, Thomas. And I really appreciate all you guys who are open with it. I think that that's really important to move forward. And you guys seriously are doing a good thing. Um, but, like, women that act like they care, I just think it's silly either way, when women say they prefer it not or they prefer it, like, uncut, like, I think that that's so silly when women do that, trust me, it's really when we're dealing with it, neither way really matters, it's like you and how you feel, but I'm not trying to be too crude here, but it's like, something a immature woman would African and Muslim countries circumcise girls, Dove said. Now it's all of them. They play on both sides. They have always done that to ensure their survival. So there's this thing called crypto Jews. I never heard of this before. This has always been a thing since there's been a Christian church where there's Jewish people that infiltrate churches. And there's a rabbi. I'm not saying this is the truth, but there's a rabbi saying that the first pope, he did lead a lot of Christians to Rome, and they're saying that they did that because the Jewish people wanted the Christians gone in that area. So that first pope was actually a Jewish man. And this rabbi is saying it in a sermon is like whatever I know they don't call them sermons, but whatever they call them, uh, was like laughing about it and stuff. And like, oh my gosh, like so people speculate, oh, I forget her name, Trump's spiritual advisor, that blonde lady, that she might be one of them. And I think that that's super interesting. And it's probably happened before with other religions, right? But this sounds like so organized. And that's like part of what's so evil about it. They won't teach you in school that the books that they were burning were about transgenders. And in like World War II, Caden, it's done as late as 5 years old, Dev said. Oh, Thomas, no, there was someone that asked, do you know what they were burning in 31 of the bonfires in Germany? And Hitler wanted to destroy any Jewish literature, astrology books because he wanted to erase. See, I've heard so many different things, and I think it's interesting. Thomas, just looking at history, it's all there. Magnus Hirschfield Barry said, okay, Thomas said, Pyramid, how are you doing tonight? Edgar, have you ever heard of the Messianic Jews, the Jews who accept Jesus as a Messiah? Israel was literally chosen through Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. You're picking a corrupt bunch of Jews like Netanyahu. I know I am, Edgar, and that's why I don't know when you came in here, but I'm sorry if you didn't see one of my disclaimers soon. It's hard to talk about because you don't want people to think you're talking about all Jewish people, and I know that people can't help what they were born into, especially, or what they chose to convert to years ago. But the problem is, yes, the people that have so much power, and there's Jewish people speaking out against what they're doing. But Kaden, that's a nice compliment. I feel like I don't there's so many channels that are diving into these topics, and all the people I've seen, they say the same thing I'm saying. It's no, it's not all Jewish people. We can't let that slippery slope happen. We can't tag a bunch of people as one thing and become what we're saying they are. That's the whole point. It's like, no, we can't keep doing that. We're all human beings. We're all humans, period. And it's really crazy to think about how we've been conditioned to look at Satanist and demonic stuff when it was right in front of our faces, but they are both bad anyway, Eddie said. Messianic Jews, LOL, that's just a name to make you feel better about them, but they aren't from the house of Judah, though they stole the identity, Barry said. There's so many different groups, and I said this earlier, I feel like they compartmentalized it on purpose to do, and of course it's just something that happens over a period of thousands of years, but they knew that it was going to be confusing to people, especially. But some that keep getting brought up or the Chabad, it starts with a C, it's like CHA. That's what Jared Kushner is. And the Hasidic, and once again, this is not all of them. No, not at all. I'm sure a lot of Jewish people see the things that they do and they're like, oh no, please don't hate all of us because of this. And I get that. the Epstein files, Jerry said. So demonic. And you guys, I'm sure a lot of you know about CERN and like they supposedly want to like create the God particle and see what happened at the beginning of the universe, but then people say they're going to open portals or they already have opened portals. That circumcision of the Jewish babies was during a covenant of Abraham and God. They came to the covenant during Moses' time. Those are two different times. That's not required anymore as a Christian, Edgar said. Right, right. So isn't it interesting that a Christian nation did it so routinely? And I know the trends are changing now, but there for several decades, it was just like a routine thing. Um, you didn't even get any informed consent. It's just, you just did it. It's what you do. Um, I am 39, Rusty. I just came from a MAGA Black Dudes channel. It was really wild seeing that guy. Hey, guy. I want to live and let live, but I don't see how anybody could still support him. And the oh no, my battery is low. It's a blessing to be born at this point of time. Born, I was gonna say. Yeah, Patel, in certain ways it is. Guess who are the majority of people on the list? Here's a hint, they're less than 1% of the population and wear tiny hats. Yeah, Barry, that's another. I mean, Epstein himself. Guys, I am so sorry. I'm going to get through the chat and then I need to take, I am so sorry. I rarely do this. Seriously, I've done it like 3 other times, but I'm going to need to take a little bathroom break. I'm so sorry. Crypto juice sounds like a currency. I know that's what I thought too. Hey, guy, but I swear that's what they said. That vile creature has been on a mission, according to an article about her. It's been like a 15-year mission for her vile ass. Are you talking about Trump's spiritual advisor? Oh, I can't remember her name. Well, Vlad the Impaler showed us how to stop tyranny, Eddie said. Based Vlad Hayes said, I was born an unlivable freak and now I'm making it YouTube's problem. I guess Paxson said, hey, if you make consistent YouTube content, even if it's about like being an unlovable freak, if you do it right, you could make content out of that. Thank you here. I'm not human at all, Eddie said. What are you eating, Sanzu? It's crazy to think about people. C2 about all the different possibilities. All J thing is scary because there's a lot of people like Finkelstein who have been heroes from the beginning, who have been nothing but truth-telling souls. Yes, and Gabor Mate, I think I might Gabor Mate. He lived through the Holocaust. He had family, like a grandparent, die in Auschwitz, and he said the same thing that he's tired of people using it as an excuse. He said that. Um, and I feel bad laughing at that, but, it just oh my goodness. Nick Nitro, I scroll live, there's so much negativity and misinfo rage baiting on YouTube. Oh, Nick, I hope you find something that you like. Well, I can see the controlled opposition argument from a mechanical perspective. Bleeder, Valve. Yes, hey guy. Man, China, how are you doing? How are you? God knows who the real Jewish people are. Alexandrak. Yes, I think God definitely knows. I'm 44, I've never voted or paid taxes, Eddie said. Good for you, the God particle. Yes, CT, the CERN stuff. I was today years old when I learned about female circumcision. Really, Moonshiner? Oh, it's awful. There's these different stages, like some are just like cutting a little off. Not that that's not horrible, but it's like to make sex painful so she doesn't cheat on her partner. That's most of it. And then it's like it's the opposite. It's not only, like, less sensitivity, like, 'cause it can be, painful. It's so awful. I never said that, LOL, are you a Jew, Thomas? You speak like one, Barry said. I don't think he is. Um, okay, Colby, I will stop doing drugs and seek Jesus very soon. Paula White is her name. Yes, too. Thank you for saying that, the spiritual advisor of Trump. Barry, what if it was which I'm not. I'm a Roman Catholic from Canada, Dutch heritage. So what are you gonna say about that next? I'm from 8 Mile and white trash like Eminem. Thomas. May the fourth be with you too, Lone Wolf. How are you doing? Jesus Christ, man, are you okay? Thomas, Roman Catholic is demonic, brother. Yeah, I was just gonna go take a break. I'm gonna mute it. I'll Um, okay. Put more chapstick on too. But yeah, maniac vlog, lay off the meth. Ew, I've never done meth before. I'm not trying to shame anybody that has, but I I don't know. If you're getting meth from this live, I think you're the one that's on something like meth. Thomas, but if you were one, gross, very sad. Well, I'm not a Jewberry, and I've told you who I am. Who the fuck are you? Thomas. Sometimes I think about making a series that's like comment section because sometimes I see like the funniest and most insightful, like informative stuff in comment sections. Catholic Jew, Fendi said, that's like I've even thought of like a little intro, like your faith in humanity can either be lost or restored in a comment section. And like here's some examples of like a funny topic that got started and some of the shit people said. Oh my gosh. And it's just so funny to me when people are going back and forth and like, in that kind of way on the internet. Excuse me. But yeah, I think I'm just kind of stumbling all over my words here. If anybody knows what like the secret society, the Satanism that they try to tell us that like it's kind of like Freemason where people are like an alchemy kind of belief system. They think that they can harness powers from the world and like like this Talmud, there's like a letter for each number, a number for each letter. Like they've got all this. I'm sure is it Gematria? You guys know what I'm talking about. Is that a Jewish thing? I'm just saying how I feel, and I'm not saying that everybody should feel like this. Just personally, instinctually, I just feel like staying away from that stuff. And then I'm like, am I a Christian? But I don't, excuse me, like literally believe word for word every single part of the story. Like, I don't believe that Adam and Eve happened the way that it said it did. And supposedly in the Talmud, it says that Adam fornicated with like tons of animals before he found Eve. He was just like trying to find a mate. And he was just like doing it with all sorts of animals before he found her and did it with her. It's like, that is so weird. It's like they're trying it's like blasphemous in a way. Some of this like they're just trying to turn it into something. Turn them into YouTube shorts and add a link to the video, Mr. Money said. Yes, that is a good idea, Thomas. Anyways, I say this is pretty good content on tonight. Sometimes it's better to talk about it than to bottle it all up and then you got to do something really stupid. Yes, Thomas, no, for sure. It's like I really don't want anybody to think that I'm trying to I don't think most people do, but like it's not about all Jewish people at all, but like we see what's going on and it kind of helps to be able, oh, my phone's really hot. I should go, guys. To sum it up, I can't put the charger on it and it'll like overheat. The battle of good versus evil, there's a duality to the universe. Like literally everything is a binary and a duality. Everything, most everything has, and even if it's the two sides together, it's still the duality, the male, masculine, feminine, night, day. It's just like there's always that. And what we thought was the battle of good versus evil. And once again, I'm not Christian, but I know so many Christians, they look at Jewish people as like their allies. And there's nothing wrong with like, oh God, there I go. Not realizing a lot of what they were endorsing when it came to the extremes. Um, and there's probably the Epstein files showed us there's probably a lot worse than the things that they haven't shown us. Could you imagine the things that we have yet to see or learn about that probably won't be like unredacted in our lifetimes or whatever? Like they supposedly have human hunting games. The same people that consider us, once again, the extremists, okay? Like consider the rest of us the scum of the earth, not worthy of anything. We're the ones that are like too fleshy. We're the ones that do all the weird sick shit, right? B. Frank, you live in Kentucky. That's so nice. I'm so sorry, you guys. My phone is going to get too hot, but it's really interesting how that would be what happened from what I've learned about how these secret societies put things in your face. That's part of the ritual. The humiliation ritual, is that a part of it? They're humiliating all of us in a way, but they put things in our face like bam. They know that they know what they're doing. And I do believe that there's a lot more sacrifices, and who knows, even COVID, maybe that was also a bunch of sacrificing happening. And we'll keep talking about this. I'm gonna put my thoughts together in an edited video better. Brilliant. Tons of other channels making so much good content about this. I have yet to see somebody tie the routine infant circumcision into it, though. I think that that is a huge angle, and the only one I really have to offer that's like not been done a million times. But Beryllium. If you look him up, anything about the Kabbalah, and he does a great job. It's not about Jewish people. Okay, I want to end it on that note. It is not about all Jewish people. We can't let them turn us into hateful people, them meaning the people that are in charge. Caden, thank you for saying I subscribed. You're cool. We'll be in touch. Good. Thank you, Caden. Now, I am a registered independent. I've leaned towards the right. I know that I'm not everybody's cup of tea. Not everybody's my cup of tea. But like, if you see that something that I said, like, I just want to be honest. I did used to support Trump. I never voted for him. I was never like wearing a MAGA hat, but I did support him, and I was proved wrong. Like, I think a lot of us have been disappointed by politicians over and over, and we're kind of grasping at straws. I'm blasphemous, Johnson. Um, your braids are giving Talmud. Hey, guys, that's so funny. Oh my goodness, I didn't even think about it. It's like crazy. It's just so much projection. The same people that say everybody else is doing everything bad, they're actually the ones that are. Basically, a friend of ours used our code reader on our vehicle and gave a catalytic converter code instead of supposed to be a friend kept our vehicle for 11 singing hours. He never fixed it. Oh no, Mr. Carey, I'm so sorry. That whole time we just got our vehicle back. I had to bounce back. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. I know you probably know this, but that can be bypassed if you get a mechanic that will like, bypass that if you can't afford a new one. We had a vehicle that was like four catalytic converters in like 4 years. It was ridiculous. We should have just bypassed it, but it was a Chevy Equinox. It is so glad to see people waking up. Barry said, "Yes, I agree." Hi, TWC, how are you? I personally wouldn't be saying all this stuff. Antiseptic, Fendi said. A year ago, I felt like, and I feel like a coward. I can admit it. It's cowardly. I knew that there was children being slaughtered. I have such a tiny YouTube channel, but at the same time, I do think it's important. Just like I said, I'm just being honest, okay? I know it's too much sometimes, but I was like watching this lady who's like a medical professional, and then I saw she had the daintiest little Star of David ever. And I couldn't help it but be like, oh, just thinking like, do you support the genocide? And then I feel bad because I'm like, how now we're gonna go through this again. Now the good Jewish people are gonna have to endure, and I say the good Jewish people because there's good and bad people of all kinds. But I have to be honest, and I see somebody wearing a Star of David, and I'm like, Is that your way of supporting that? Or like, how could you?" With everything going on in the world. I know, that sounds so judgmental. I put my charger on, but it's probably going to. Thank you, Evelyn. That's so sweet. But yeah, I notice, I wonder, it's like 20, 25%. It's kind of significant amount of people that subscribe, unsubscribe. And once again, I do that. There's a reason and a season. I've done that to so many YouTubers. I subscribe and then I see another thing of their content. I just don't want to follow them anymore. And so I'm completely fine with that. But it is really interesting. I'm trying to like talk more about like I garden. We're going to be doing a lot of gardening talk, but also like there is political things to be talked about in the garden and our food, the food costs. Oh my gosh, diesel, the cost of all this farm equipment. It's not cheap to run this equipment, let alone with really expensive gas. Like our food is going to get more expensive. And I think it's important to be as self-sustainable as possible and to vote with your dollar as much as possible. Do I use Amazon every once in a while? Yes. I'm not any better than anybody else. If I had more income, I can honestly say I would avoid Amazon. It gets to the point where it's like a crutch, it's like a convenience with certain things you can't afford to pay the shipping on top of the item. Yeah, he has a done a war in supporting Israel. Yes, Caden. And now I see, like, I was disappointed in Obama. I voted for Obama. I was disappointed in him. I remember learning about him bombing Syria. I remember the day, like the desk I was sitting at and stuff, and like, why is he? I was so naive. I'm like, why is he bombing Syria? What did they ever do? Oh, they didn't have a central bank. That's what they ever did. They didn't have a Rothschild bank. That's the only thing I could come up with. And he's no different than any of the rest of them. And there's really a puppet. Whoever is the president, he's not in control. He's not the one making the decisions. And now that it's almost a good thing when you keep that in mind with Trump, just because he seems so degenerate, deficient. But it's not, because then you realize like how evil everything is and how our tax dollars are being used for this, when there's so many people suffering, people in nursing homes being thrown out on the street because of the Medicaid cuts. And oh, it's so horrible. And then to think about all the people suffering, all the people starving in Gaza. Oh, it's so horrible. The family's torn apart. You almost like can't complain as an American when you really think about the things that people are going through in the Middle East. A good documentary to watch is The CIA Drugs Are US. The CIA Drugs Are Us on Tubi. Oh, I don't have Tubi, Thomas. Maybe I can find that some other place. Thank you for saying you love my braids. Everybody that said it. So nice. Yeah, he is a dumbass for sure. Oh, I already read that. I don't read every single compliment because it sounds conceited, but please know that it really does mean a lot to me. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but like I have some asymmetry to my face, and I think my eyes have looked a little better lately. And I think it's from gardening. Yes, I do. I think it's from being out in the sun. Your body is just, oh, there's always going to be exceptions. I am getting a little, well, you can't see it. I got a little too much sun on my arms. I'm trying to be better about, protecting my skin so I don't get burnt. But I really do like it is so, I know I'm sitting here drinking beer. I'm not 100% healthy all the time, but always good and bad, Keith said. How are you doing, Keith? Yes, of course it is, Fandy. What's crapping in from Iceland? Oh, and that's another thing that I mentioned in my members only live. It's like if people agree that Trump should try to take over Greenland because China might, or like, Russia or China will anyway. So um take that logic and make it make sense that our bases in the Middle East are now obliterated, like practically wiped out. How much vulnerable that makes us when it comes to any possible conflict with China or Russia, or like how different that makes things. And I saw this guy, I wish I could remember exactly what he said. He said, the war we're fighting, it's like sending like Ferraris out a VW. Like it's just crazy how we're spending like $500 million on a missile that's getting shot down by something that cost them 50,000. And I think that that was a great, I don't know if that would be an analogy. That just summed up everything going on really well. The people in the US, the ones at the top, not all of us, right? Like the corrupt people at the top, like Trump, they are so out of touch. They think that they're going to, win everything because they spend the most money on weapons, not realizing kind of like, well, there's going to be people that can't spend as much money, but they still, all you need is a moving object. He didn't call my wife because can't drive the vehicle, no insurance. He took advantage of our vehicle. That's not a cool person. Has no. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, Mr. Fendi. You think he was out there like joyriding or something? That's shitty. I know it's hard to get a good mechanic nowadays. We had one that would like come to us, but like he quoted us something so insanely expensive for one repair. We like took it to a shop and yada yada. It was just a little disappointing. It's like I understand quoting us more because you're coming to us, but it was like several hundred more than the shop. WPD will open your eyes to the evil in the world. You'll curse me and thank me in the same breath. What is WPD? Is that, let me look at your previous comments. 14 bases abandoned. Russia can't project. China is concentrated regionally. They are trying to multipole this world while we are trying to win it all. ISIS was given Toyota from Israel. Now you're saying all sorts of stuff that I missed. Crazy how they funded Hamas as controlled ops. I know. I voted for Trump in 16 and Syria was bombed for Gouda Kim. False flag. I got sick and didn't vote for him in 20. Yeah, and I just felt like he was the lesser of two evils. Now I look at it, it's like it's all the same. I don't, Kamala said Iran was a big threat when she was running. Like I don't believe that she wouldn't have necessarily done the same thing because it's not her or him, right? It's like the puppet masters, but it is was so disappointing to me the way he became a pharma salesman. And because before Trump ran for the first time, he said he believed the people that said certain things about vaccines we're not even gonna get into now because, like, God forbid you say your child got symptoms that are known to happen from this side effect. Yada yada. He said that they need to have a better schedule. The schedule is too rigorous, stuff like that. And then he goes on and on about this brand new novel kind of one that was just like, okay, so you are like everybody else. You're our country is controlled by oil and pharma, and now tech. Like, for a while, it was oil and pharma, and now it's, like, tech too, and, like, the computer chips and, like, a lot of the moves they're making now, and I think, in my opinion, is because 'cause they're trying to mine minerals they're gonna need for, like, between their surveillance system, data centers, just all the AI crap, they need an abundance of these computer chip minerals and other minerals I'm sure that go into. And another reason it's like it would be makes sense to make these things farther north because they are so hot and run the risk of overheating. So that's another reason, like, Greenland has valuable minerals. Also, it would be a good place to make a lot of, like, AI data center things because it would be cooler. I thought that that was interesting. Jews, gold, Abraham about Jesus. That says a lot. I won't say any more lest I throw myself off a bridge. Um, that's what it says. I'm sorry, Keith. You don't have to say anymore, but that's what it says, like, in the are you talking about in the Torah or the Talmud, or that's just like beliefs that they have, what you just said about Jesus and gold? I'm sorry, I'm so far behind. Hi, Game Boy, how are you? Crazy how they funded it. I saw that. Exactly. Thomas, when's it going to take? Barry said, Thomas, never, you're just giving the illusion of choice, Fendi said. Yes, Thomas, I don't know. People stopped going to work and paying taxes, and then the military would fall, and then you would have to go. You would have like a Gandhi lawyer or something like that. But I just don't see the United States ever doing that because you guys love your weapons, which I don't blame you because, oh, you're not in the US, Thomas. If you don't have weapons to challenge the government, you could wake up with Nazis. Yeah. Like, I totally understand if you're from like some island nation that doesn't have guns and you don't understand how people feel safe with them. I can understand that. I feel safer with them. And like I've said before, I think everybody on my street has them. And that makes me feel safer, especially because of impending doom. You know what I mean? But like at the same time, yeah, I think the ideal life would be to live in a community. Like the most densely populated island on the planet is off the coast of Colombia. Forgive me, I don't remember what it's called. I saw a YouTube video about it. They don't have any police law enforcement. There's like, I don't know how many hundreds of people on this little tiny island, but they take care of each other. And they're like, yeah, if somebody does something, we like check them basically, and like everything's fine, even on the most densely populated island on the planet. And it was just really interesting to me. I think but we can't all live in like very small communities, unfortunately. We just can't. But that is ideal. Johnny Depp, I love you, Sleepy Hollow Man's. Oh, the Game Boy is some funny 14 says abandoned Russia can't project China is concentrated regionally. I read that one. How did I go like up and down? Your beauty has always been your inquisitive mind. You've always known the world wasn't running straight. Oh, thank you, Keith. That's so sweet. Afibo, I don't consider myself religious. I'm spiritual. I, I want to read this. I'm going back and forth between making it members only or not, but it's the New Testament in like plain English. This guy transcribed it or whatever. And I've always felt, and I'm not trying to be mean, but I've just always felt it's a book written by men and like it could have been manipulated. But at the same time, there's undeniable truth in it, especially after what's happened in the last several years. I do feel like the Bible is spoken about these times we're in. And as I mentioned earlier, like, yeah, especially when it began, it was liberating to women in certain ways. It was like to be telling men to treat your wife like your equal and treat her with love. Like that was a revolutionary concept to a lot of people back then. And you read Proverbs 31, it talks about a woman that makes stuff, sells it at market, takes her earnings, and she buys a field and then she plows it and she plants in it and she does it all over again. And I think that sounds pretty badass. And that's so fulfilling to a lot of us, and I think that that is what most people thrive off of, like, working off the land. It's not about being barefoot and pregnant, you know? It's just like media platforms and having a cell phone, like, I remember being a kid in school, and the very first thing we had to do was create an email address. Yes. Okay, if I go because my phone overheats, I apologize up front, and I probably will just, like, not come back, just so you guys know. But and you know you need to pay for your phone, having online banking, then you pay for your bills, whatever happened to a check. Oh my gosh, Thomas, yes, yeah, you're bringing up a lot of interesting topics. What did you say? So this one guy, I know I'm so bad about that. He had this tiny channel that blew up and he went from like 400 subscribers to 15,000. And he's talking about like one of his videos that blew up recently was like, no, Israel isn't owed to anybody. Like, we don't, these are the reasons people usually say, like, oh, it needs to be a thing. And it was like really great rebuttals he had. And once again, this is not against all Jews. No. And that's what he kept saying too. He had a video that was talking about not paying taxes and went into detail. And I do think that I think general strikes and not paying taxes, like there needs to be more of a push for alternative forms of housing. If people could get, I know a lot, if you're living in your car, you would think it would be great to have a little plot of land and an RV, right? And like hopefully have some utilities, even if you don't, if you have to deal with the hookups and hauling in water and stuff, it's still is better than living in your car. If we could get more people on little plots of lands where they're like just paying property taxes, no payment on the land, no payment on the housing. And then you went to work, or we lived kind of like more communally where there was a few families in one plot and there was just like one or two of the adults out of 5 or 10 that went to work to pay the property taxes to buy the stuff that you can't grow or barter. And then that takes more out of the tax system by not by a way of somebody simply not paying while they're working, by somebody like not entering the workforce, period, because they're living in such a way. And we did start to live like that for 11 and a half months. We lived off grid, hauled every drop of water, where we were pretty primitive. We had solar. It could only charge like run a mini fridge and some other things like that. We had a wood stove and we would love to do it right. It's like my dream would be for this YouTube channel to start making good money and we could start little homesteads for people. Like this property we're on now, if we paid it off and then, like, I think we could split it into 2 properties. One would be, like, just a little house, it wouldn't be the garden part, but, like, the other half of our driveway, the other half of not half, it's a tiny little, like, triangle of property across the driveway. It already has like, we have an extra water meter and electric pole that I think used to have a box and so anyways, if more people had that mindset that could if more and that's what I told the universe, please help me, give me a monetized YouTube channel and I will help other people. Well, I'm not making any money and I'm not complaining, but like having a monetized channel doesn't mean you're making good money, right? So like we need to get in the algorithm, but like I mean it, that would be a dream of mine. Land is still cheap relatively here in Kentucky, but I think that's the answer. You have to really, and now that I know because we've done it before, you have to really plan out the expenses of everything. And even though federally you're not really supposed to live off grid, like the EPA says you're supposed to have a septic, yada, yada, is you won't get in trouble. You won't get in trouble for building something. There's tons of people that live in RVs. We have neighbors that have lived in an RV the entire 3 years we've been on this in this house, and honestly, sometimes I wish we would have just bought an RV with the money that we had and not gotten into another mortgage loan, but that's neither here nor there, but, we could get more people comfortable on a piece of land where their hard work and labor is working that land, and a lot of people are like, "No, I don't think that you can have a 50-acre farm with just, like, 10 people." I know that's a lot of work and that's too much, but you can grow food for hundreds of people on just a few acres. So if you do it right and you're all working together, and then somebody's always going to say it. So before somebody says it, and you're right, you're smart to critically think this, you're right, you're not wrong. They would make that illegal. They would find a way to make that illegal, right? Um, I think a woman is needed to run this world, Keith said. Yeah, I think the evil is so prevalent. I wouldn't trust somebody but like I do I do think that the bad men have ran it so far into the ground. The bad men are like so bad, they're dragging all us men and women down with them. If matriarchy is the exact opposite of patriarchy, would they be authority and privilege-based society or still a power and rights law-based society? So I've heard I could run this world, Keith, thanks. I've heard mixed things, Moonshiner. I've heard that, like, a matriarchy is I've never heard it said it's, like, women-based. Usually a matriarchy is child-centered, and that's what I've seen. I made a video and it got copyright stricken. There's a few communities, most of them that I researched are villages in Africa, who escaped their own village because they were escaping the female genital mostly and just overall horrific abuse of women. They leave, they create a community where women are safe, men are welcome, but they're not allowed to like live there. And they tend to start the schools for all the neighboring tribes. Like there isn't a school, it sounds like, and this tribe of women that separate to be safer, they're like, we're going to start educating the children because that's what happens when women start communities. And when women start with nothing from scratch and like go to build community that is women led, it's not women focused, it is child focused. Doesn't that make sense? It just makes sense. And doesn't that benefit all of us the most? Yes. And once again, I don't think that, I think it's a balance of masculine and feminine. And the fact we're at the end of the cycle, that that shows we're at the end of a cycle, that it's even a thing that like a purely woman run is actually way seems way better than what we're doing now, which is letting kids fall through the cracks. Oh my gosh, it's so sad. Mr. Carey has a really like smart daughter that there's weren't they talking about? I'm sorry, that wasn't a members only. I don't know. There's people that are excelling in school, of course, but there's just so many children that are illiterate, so many adults that are illiterate. And don't tell me that wasn't part of the plan. But I do think that I don't want to come off as a misandrist, that things would be better if women had more say. It's all about working together. And if we had equal masculine and feminine, I think that that would be ideal. Big things have small beginnings, Kason. I definitely don't. So, like when I was younger, I would never consider myself a leader, but the older I get and the more it's like, because we've been lied to what a true good leader is. Good leaders do support who they lead. And I think I would be a damn good leader now in my middle age. I do. But it wouldn't be in order to gain as much power and control as I could. It would be to help people, to help and serve a community. I think that would be awesome. And women are one of three mammals. Us human women are one of three mammals, the others being elephants and some kind of whale that survive for a quarter of our lives past our fertile years because we're so damn important. And somebody always laughs at this, but grandmas were very prevalent hunters. Like they found many graves where they just assumed the skeleton was like a man because it was obviously like a warrior, had a bunch of hunting possessions around it. Oh, it must have been a man. And then time after time, they're like, actually, that was a woman. And like clearly she was very skilled hunter to be buried like this. And it just goes to show women have a lot of endurance. Like what we don't have in brute strength, we make up for often with like endurance. So it just makes sense that we would be skilled hunters just because of the endurance aspect. We are shamed to age. And that's another thing I want to share on my platform is like aging is a blessing. Being older is truly life's biggest blessing. The older you get, especially, and just have like a functioning body. And it's such a shame that women, um, I want to be one of those like do whatever makes you feel better, but at the same time, it's like this world makes me so sad that so many women feel like they have to do so many things to avoid the aging process. Yeah, they make everything illegal, light bulbs, etc. Moonshiner. Yeah, yeah, I remember in New York State, they were, like, trying to make gas stoves illegal. I'm not reading your comments. Sounds a way to get taken advantage of by the property owner if you're not careful, I just said. Well, that's what I'm saying, if, you own the property together, I don't know exactly what you're talking about, Edge of South, but the ideal situation would be, so I mentioned like septic regulations and stuff. There's so many people that, and it's also another reason why there's contaminated creeks and lakes. It's not like ideal to have people that don't have septics. It's just the nature of the poverty. There's a law, and the best way, if the next property we get, ideally you have a house on the property, even if it's derelict, needs to be torn down. If you have a property that has utilities, even if you're not using them, that's going to get you a long way if you want to be off grid and like really not, because you can't get electric if you don't have a septic. And so basically, if you want a septic, you're going to have to get your house wired for electric, or and I believe one good way to get around that would be to have, like, an RV pad or RV pads, and there's a few. There are some areas, some places where there's, like, just, like, room for, like, 5 RVs, and it's like somebody made a little private camping ground. I just don't know why that's not more of a thing. I guess I do know because that would be such a pain to have like rented land and people not leave. Barry, you can speak about Jews all day, but I'm hesitant to talk about these guys. Barry, I don't blame you. I'm honestly, and I feel bad I don't remember that guy's channel, but I felt like inspired by people who are just saying it what it is, the Kabbalah. There's so much, this is Satanism, demonic devil worship, whatever you want to call it, the bad and the good versus bad. It is the extremists that are my daughter, they are waiting to advance her a grade, Keith. Yes, Mr. Carey. I'm sorry, I started to say, and then I was like, oh, you said it in like a members only live. And I always feel like I shouldn't say things that people said in members only lives. But Mr. Carey's daughter is brilliant. I didn't even know they did that anymore. Thomas said, research Bill Cooper, The Hour of Time, or Jordan Maxwell, where he talks about the Bible will be the greatest story ever told because that's all. It is a story of a whole bunch of religions mixed together. So the zeitgeist, I think that's what it was. Thank you, Thomas. I always look into all your guys' recommendations. There's this guy who has since passed, a French man, Jacques something. And okay, now I'm getting two documentaries confused, but I do remember the way they explained it was like we went from worshiping the sun to the Son of God. And then, of course, there's like the obvious holidays like Easter and Ishtar and things like that. That's like it just makes sense. But I am so open-minded, even though I'm like, I'm not going to say I believe that Jesus was born to a virgin, that there was a snake that told a woman to eat an apple, and because of that, I have a period. And once again, I'm not making fun. I look at it as like people like believe the symbology or just whatever they believe it truly wholeheartedly. It's not for me to understand. But I look at it like if this is the way that a lot of people come to God or like have a relationship with God is a specific set of stories in a book and like who am I to judge that? It's better than not having any relationship with God. That's how I look at it. However, um I do wish I had more faith and I feel like what I was saying about the job interview, I am pretty good about like everything happens for a reason and like when I start to get hung up and spinning my wheels on something, I'm like but like part of and I know this sounds crazy to some people, but part of how I don't feel like that is my garden. I'm so fulfilled with growing flowers and food, and I have that to look forward to no matter what time of year it is, that it has made all the difference. And that's I just wish everybody had that. I know not everybody's meant to garden, but I think that every human being deserves something that makes them feel fulfilled, even if every bill is late. Have hardly you guys should see our fridge right now, and I am not dry begging, I'm not asking for anything, we're all in this boat together, but it's like, man, like, we like, just lately, we just had a few things, and, uh, oh god, it's just so disappointing to think about, it seems like things are getting worse and worse. If I didn't have my garden to look forward to, I would be like, "Oh my gosh, like, we're gonna keep going through this where we can get the staples every few days, but, like, we don't ever have quite, like, a full fridge like we used to," and I know. First world problems, at least we have electricity and a fridge, so you have no problem becoming a citizen of the empire of the Satan. Interesting, Fendi said. Fendi, I know you're not talking to me. Yeshua is, I've never seen it spelled like that, healing. Yeah, I know, but the ones I'm talking about are a little hesitant. I'm not talking about Jews, Barry said. Right, Mr. Carey, my daughter didn't get her intelligence from me. I'm not a smart man. Oh, Mr. Carey. Hey, guy, the one thing I really appreciated Bill Cooper was for going up against Alex Jones' fear mongering about Vladimir the Demon in his early days in 2000 in the Y2K broadcast. Isn't Bill Cooper, is that the same guy that some people said Alex Jones was? And have you guys seen how the Onion, this timeline we're on, The Onion bought out InfoWars, and there's, like, some comedian making fun of Alex Jones. Keith, how are you doing, Keith? How are you? Biggest corruption in politics, you'd have to be too wealthy to campaign, never be a commoner elected to any high office. Have to go back to Savvy Cargo. Yes. Michael, how are you doing? Yes, you're right. How you have to have how many millions of dollars to even campaign? It's like, I definitely be embracing being told I was born in the 1900s, me and China. I know, I hear that, like, once a week, Jews encompass as Saturn worshipers with what you're giving me, I'm just guessing Afibo said. I think some of them do, Afibo, definitely some of them. And when yeah, man, China, when people say that 1900s, that really gets to me every time. I like I said, I can accept being middle-aged, I like being older. I don't like having people say, 1982. I'm like, "Why are you saying that?" Um or they'll usually say it differently, like in the 1900s. Women are a treasure. There's nothing better than learning with and from someone you love. Yes, hey guy, that is very true. Setting goals and meeting goals together. It's the bloodline of the Nephilim. I'll phrase it like that. You do the rest, Barry said. You should have been there, kid. Minshiner said, yes, I'm sorry about some stuff. Hard times, thank you. Yes, it is something I'm not as knowledgeable as a lot of people, but I think the different bloodlines are really interesting. And if you don't know about Rh negative blood, it makes no sense that some people, 15% of our population, doesn't have this protein on the surface of their blood cells. And that doesn't happen in any other animal, and it being a recessive trait, it should have, like, bred itself out more by now, and the fact it's, like, stays that this 15% is kind of a weird thing. A lot of people who come from a concentrated region over by, like, Spain and Portugal, like the Basque Mountains, I think, like, have an unusually high number of people, and I think that in my opinion, I think that that's a fallen angel, maybe not angels, but, like, some kind of alien race or something mating with people. It makes no sense that, if you didn't know, if you have a baby like, I'm negative, I'm Rh negative, my husband's positive. If we had a baby and my blood mixed with the baby, then the next baby would maybe not survive at all or be at high risk of having a lot of problems because my immune system would attack that baby because I've created antibodies because I like with the blood mixing was like, hey, there's this foreign object in my body. And so I got the Rogam shot, which was to prevent that, or in case your blood mix, it wouldn't happen with the first two babies, made me really sick. And so with the third baby, I was like, please, I don't want to do this. They made me sign a form that was like, if I have an accident or if he comes out positive, I'll get it because you have like 72 hours after whatever blood mixing incident to get it. And I know, once again, I know I tell the same stories over and over, but I was asking a phlebotomist all these questions about it. And she was like, honestly, they tell us something different about it every year too. Cause I'm like, I'm kind of confused here. This shot is for the next baby. It's not for this baby and now, but I know how important that is. It is important. Don't get me wrong. But like, anyways, that baby was A negative, so it's like I I would have went through all that and been sick for it to have a baby that was my same blood type, and I'm not giving any medical advice, oh my god. You can get it within 72 hours of your blood mixing. So even if you haven't had it yet and you get like in a bad fall or car wreck, they'll give it to you, when you go to seek medical treatment. And it's really interesting with my first baby, they made me carry around a card that was like, I've gotten a Rogam shot, but they didn't with the other two. I don't know. It's just like um, super interesting, Afibo. The Canaanites were who they were like way, way back in the day, right? Like we're talking about 70 AD or before then even. They aren't afraid to call this shit out. I know what you mean, hey guy said. The deeper you go, the crazier you look when you speak about it. Right, Barry? That's why I appreciate you guys so much. I know a lot of you can probably relate. I have some great family, I really do, but I don't I don't have anybody else besides my husband that I could be like, "Hey, let me bounce these things off of you that I heard about the Jewish mysticism, Kabbalah, chickens waving over their thing," and it's like too much for my family, and I know that a lot of people are like that, where it's just like, "Have you heard about GMOs? Have you heard about glyphosate?" And I've tried so hard to tone myself down, but even, like, my sister-in-law, and she was talking about gardening, she told me years ago, she's like, "You need to make a YouTube channel, you really do," and I don't think she knows about it yet, or I haven't had the nerve, like, she texts me sometimes, and I feel kinda bad, but one of these days, I'm gonna, like, show her that I have a YouTube channel, and I know she's gonna be, like, really sweet about it, um but yeah, it's kind of like, everybody's great, but it's kinda like, keep Lydia at a distance. She talks a lot about a lot. Or I've had people write me an email, "Hey, I'm interested in the elimination diet, and I know you did it with your kids, and like, can you and then I write them back and they're like, this is too much information. I had that happen a few times where I'm like, oh my God, I talk too much. And I really have to like refine what I say. There, maybe by design, Barry said. You're talking about Zeitgeist. Yes, Hey Guy. I think that was the documentary. Now that's where they talk about how ideal communities would have like a greenhouse tower, which I love that concept, all of his concepts. But I want to say that it touched upon religion, right? And was just kind of like, um, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, it's good that we stopped sacrificing like animals and children at a certain point, or some of us did. But there's nothing wrong with, like, seeking a relationship with God and having something that like, rituals if you're not hurting anybody, but that's what I liked about Wicca, like, in the Book of Shadows. This is what I was taught, and I don't know how different it is among different witches, but, like, every witch writes their own Book of Shadows. There's, like, very, very basic laws that are known, and, like, the number one is like, don't do anything or put up with anything that hurts anybody or yourself. Like, pretty much like live and let live, but like as long as you're not hurting anybody. And I always really like that. And like that rule of three. And I think that, yeah, it is ideally we wouldn't have to have any rules to keep us in line, but it's hard to digest indeed. Logic and rationality says no, Kay said. I won't fall for elaborate distractions, Barry. At the end of the day, it's worship God as Christ is King. The rabbit hole isn't worth it, Phoebo said. Keith, faith is supernatural. It's beyond maybe Barry. It all leads to Christ. Jesus Christ is King. Good night, Barry. Love you. Good night. I hope you sleep good if you're still in here. So Arthur Quan Lee is a guy that like if you are interested in well, I don't know. Some of you might not want to look at his content, but he's a young Christian man and he really stands on principle. And he made a great video today basically saying that the people who are like the true leaders, I don't think he said true leaders, whatever. The people we really need to follow are the people that will not take $155 million to say that a genocide is okay. The people who, and once again, not to make him a martyr, who won't take all the money and have the handlers so they can live a lavish lifestyle and say whatever people want them to say. And that is a rare quality. And I think Arthur Quan Lee, I'm surprised he still has a YouTube channel, some of the shit he says, honestly. And it, he's especially for the men, I think he'd be a good follow. And it is inspiring to see somebody that is like I said, I don't believe in the Bible word for word, but I still get inspired by it. And I still like seeing people young people like him give me hope. You're O negative? Hey, guy, that's cool. Your mom is too. Isn't that the universal one of the universal ones you can give blood to anybody? She's in her late 30s, Thomas said. Are you talking about me? Keith Wick Life, that's so neat. 900-person town. I'm also O negative. What are we talking about? Oh, they call me Eddie. Thank you. Yeah, just different. It's just crazy to think about different conspiracy theories and how RH negative, how did that come about? We are 15% of the population and it's like recessive, but it's like stayed at 15% and we don't get bred out like you think we would. We're the only animal that we know of where the same animal can mate with another animal, but because of different proteins on the plate or the surface of their red blood cell, the Rh negative are lacking the Rhesus protein. So it's like then people are like, okay, so you mean like Reese's monkey? So like if they don't have that, then does that mean they came from another lineage? And what would that be? And I think they know. I think they know about blood types and they don't tell us on purpose. I think they know that it is the key to a lot of stuff. And there's some people that are out with, like blood type diet or whatever. I think that they know a lot more about blood types. And I was at a conference with a handful of other autism moms. We all had kids with A negative blood that were diagnosed on the autism spectrum. That's pretty wild. Don't tell me there's not something going on there. But once again, that's not to say that just because you are A negative, you will or your kid will be. Um, as somebody said, I was old. I'm so glad I escaped that cultist mentality. Well, I was never in it. I was never totally in it. I was totally against him once he did something evil. Oh, I'm glad you're doing good, Michael. I'm glad you're here. I wish I was a psychopath. Hey, guy. That's funny. I spell Florida like that. That is funny. Hey, guy. Um, oh, you're talking about Trump. Yeah, I see what you mean. I want to make a video just, and I don't think it's going to be helpful. I'm trying to make as many videos as I can. Hey, Mr. Dunham, how are you? About like explain to people that are still like, why would, if anybody is wants to listen, why would anybody support Trump? I understand where you're coming from. The way I looked at it was like Joe Biden was a pervert. He sniffed kids. He was a freaking pervert. Trump is a pervert. They're all perverts. Trump's just actually going to say the perverted things out loud, which like I don't want to say it's a breath of fresh air cuz it wasn't, but it was like more accepted because you're just like they're all freaking perverts. They all are sex pests. So it wasn't that people were thrilled with having a president that talked like him. Gary, how are you doing, Gary? Sooner or later, some teen is going to say, I was an iPad kid and I came out all right about their kid. Oh, Moonshiner, I think that that's so sad. There's so many people that there's a lot being said about the education system and like teachers. And this one teacher said it so well. She said, when you learn through a screen, there's like a disconnect that happens. These kids like absorb the information, but it doesn't go anywhere. They like learn something by watching it and then they are reading through a screen and they can't answer questions about it. There's some kind of disconnect that happens. And that was so sad to me. Like my 9-year old, I read to him like upwards of 2 hours a day. And I get on here, I'm like, blah, 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 blah. That's probably one reason I'm such a good reader is because I've been reading books like several hours a week for years and years, out to my kids. I was big on writing, looking up stuff in a dictionary, stuff like that. I just felt like it's important for kids to know just in case shit crashes or something. But now I'm thinking it was like instinctual. You're not supposed to learn everything through a screen. You're not. And when my kid got his laptop and started going to school like that, he's a great student, but like that, I did notice a difference, but he's still making well above a 3.0. There I go with the T-Rex. That's like a autism thing. I have dogs and a cat. I love both. I'm a sociopath and psychopath. I will never find love because I cannot comprehend it. I accept this. I can still be kind to people though. Keith, I don't know if you're being completely serious when you said that, but you're funny. I hope you are just joking. Point of view, Lydia bringing up her YouTube channel to a relative. Funny story. Oh my God, Moonshiner, you're so funny. No, thank you so much for posting that, Carrie. It used to be lame to sell out. Yes, Moonshiner. I am an orator. I like that, Keith. A little tweaking, but 100, you're an orator. Ah! Thomas Bill Cooper was like the first one, and then you have David like and Ike. David like, and then he had Jim Mars, Jordan Maxwell. So I've heard of all those people besides Jim Mars and Jordan Maxwell. But yeah, I have said before, I do take kratom. However, when you take kratom every day, it's just like any other substance you take every day. I don't feel it. And the last time I took it was 9, so it's like I could take more right now. But I'm like this even when I don't take. I wake up and like when I'm like actually up, I'm like and that's why I was a pothead for years. That like, helped calm me down. Bill Cooper, I already read that. Once you touch a UFO narrative, you will disappear, Keith said. Somebody was saying that there's like these stories where somebody was missing for decades and then they show up. Like there's this one where this guy went missing in 1991. And just in like 2021, he shows up to his door and he has the same train ticket from 1991. He's wearing the same outfit. I'm like, okay, I know this could be some made up story, but this might be what happens to these scientists that are going missing now. Like they might just like show up one day again years from now. And I thought that was super interesting. And it's so undeniable that something is going on. It is Judgment Day, Mrs. said. I agree. It's the end of a cycle, Epstein files. Ryan, I'm all over the place with my channel. I love turtles too, Ryan. I really do. I want to talk about self-sustainability, voting with your dollar, but I talk about subjects like this too because I can't help myself. Bible says many signs from heaven in last days as a warning of fallen angels that are so amazing, so much power and beauty, yet UFOs are deceivers like their God. Satan. Yes, Michael. Does anyone know where I can find the turtle channel? Ryan, Garden State Tortoises. Oh my God, did I just remember the name of the channel? I think that's a turtle channel I follow. Garden State. Gosh, I hope that I see the most amazing, like, turtles are so resilient. There's been turtles I've seen rescued. They're like on the kitchen floor eating kibble in canned peaches, like for decades. And then these people help rehabilitate the turtles. I just met I just about met Jesus we know is this fattest raccoon eating the food we had out for our feral cat, bigger than a groundhog. Oh, that's so funny, Mr. Carey. That is so funny, probably caused a massive uptick in myopia as well, HSL said. I have, so many cats running around here, including my cat, it's like it's slightly annoying. I haven't seen a raccoon, like, on our property ever. I'm just realized that. See lots of possum. I saw a turkey the other day. I left early to do an Instacart, like, I left a little earlier than I usually do, and, turkeys are so freaking funny. If you never, like, raced a turkey for a few seconds, you haven't lived life. You'll, like, come up on them, and they do that thing with their head, and it's like they're trying to, like, go as fast as they can, and then they're like, but go beside your car going really fast. They're so goofy looking, and it's like, it's hilarious. I love it. I love it. You know what I'm talking about, Mr. Carey? You ever raced a turkey for a few seconds? And usually you see groups of them. That was the first time I ever saw just one. Usually they're like together with a bunch of them, and it makes it even funnier. It's funny speaking about turtles, that New York City tunnel, people were making fun of it, saying it was like the Jewish Ninja Turtles or whatever, this guy coming up out of it. It would be funnier if it didn't have a bloody mattress and a child stroller in it. Oh, no, you couldn't see my beer can, could you? Yeah, because Jesus said the richest kings on the planet aren't kings in my kingdom. The poorest people on the planet are the kings in my kingdom. Yes, and the greed, the love of money. Yeah, my phone's about to die for real now. I know I said that a while ago, and I had my charger on it, and it was working. The love of money really is the root of all evil, and that's what all of this is. We could all be more than fine. Everybody could be, but I guess, that would be like heaven if everybody was fine. Like people don't have to be this bad off. And it's all about getting greed is gaining at other people's expense. Like you don't need none of these guys need more digits in their bank account. That's all it is at a certain point. They don't need any more money. They just their life revolves around it. And that is why everything is the way that it is. And private equity is seeped into everything. My dog's in front of me right now. It's like how vets are. It's like in part to private equity taking over and like with housing, even the cheapest forms of housing, like trailer parks, they've been bought up by these like corporations that do everything they can to price gouge people because they don't work for a living. And that's what's so great about if you can and you work outside off the land. Like I look down on people who are greedy, McGreedy pants and can't live like that and will never know what it's like to work really hard and feel fulfilled and see the fruits of your labor genuinely because all they do is take from other people. And you kind of have to feel bad for those people. They're like handicapped in a way, and I'm not making fun of handicapped people, but I'm saying it's like they're handicapped that they're so greedy that it holds them back from experiencing the best parts of life. And that's why they're constantly chasing something because they know they're not whole, they're not fulfilled, because they don't work hard and toil in the sun like you're supposed to if you have an able body. Oh, Michael, thank you so much. You're so sweet. Thank you for the super chat. What kind of dog do you have? Let me close the door and I'll show you because my room is so messy. I've got my seeds on my dresser, and I know you guys don't care about that, but he's half Great Dane, half Neapolitan Mastiff, and he is oops, sorry guys. He is that was a great angle. Oh, my light. He's sleepy. Isn't he so cute? Doesn't he look like a big velveteen teddy bear? Oh, don't mind my wrinkly carpet. Oh, you little teddy bear. He's a silver fawn. He's got like silver in his coat. And yeah, if you didn't know, Great Danes are German Mastiffs, and he's Neapolitan Mastiff, which is like Cane Corso's cousin. They're Italian Mastiffs, but they're wrinkly and droopy, as you could see. Um, Mr. Carey said, Michael, thank you for supporting the channel. Yes, I only had one dog. He will never be replaced. He taught me a lot. Keith, aw, I'm so sorry to hear that. I know how much that hurts. I made a draft that I feel the same way about fathers and like Father's Day. I don't know. I was just like, I'm gonna release it tomorrow. It's like there's so many women, like Mother's Day is when we celebrate women. I mean, I'm sorry, mothers, right? But not all women that have pushed out a baby are automatically worthy of celebrating, right? Because not all of them have been good mothers. And just in the same turn, you don't have to be a biological mother to be a good mother, to have played a part in helping somebody, any living being, and that's why I think that we're all better off the more people like there's just so many women that want to be mothers and feel like they haven't, and I'm not trying to, oh my god, I don't want to be dismissive in any feelings. You're a dog mom, you're a mom, but like at the same, we should honor motherhood in all of its forms. And like pets, absolutely. Like when I lost my dog, oh my gosh, that was really rough. Our first mastiff, we said no more mastiffs. Their only fault is their lifespans are too short. We can't do this again. And here we are with two more mastiffs. Now we're just like, well, if we have two at a time. Yes, Ryan, Elon is greedy. Elon is a perfect example of modern day oligarchs, technocracy, somebody who lives off the backs of other people. I don't believe that Elon ever went to sleep on his desk and like spent a whole night working. Like he tries to portray once again because he knows he's not a hard worker, so he has to fake it because he wants to have that pride. The undercover boss, that super boss show, was that what it was called? Where these CEOs would go in undercover. They couldn't do most of the jobs that people that are getting paid a hundredth of their salary are doing, like on the floor of these places. In um, I think that probably was humbling to some of those guys and women, of course, but like most of them need that. They need to be like sent to the bottom, tier of their corporation and have to work a day. So many things would be so much better and different, especially as somebody who worked at Amazon. They like hire in managers who just graduated college who have never worked in a warehouse on purpose. They want that disconnect. They don't want people um working together to actually make things better for people. Mr. Money, I said I think scientists are going missing to undermine public asset NASA and privatize its SpaceX. Oh, Mr. Money, that's a really interesting angle I haven't heard anybody else bring up. I seen your big dogs, you have nothing like them, stately jowls, and yes, one can only display love in the way they were taught. Conflict is love to some people. Yes, Keith, unfortunately, but you can always heal from that, Like I didn't start a lot of fights, but I'm like anxiously attached and like I can I've gotten on my husband's last nerve more than once, but then you work on things and that's one thing that I think does temper you. If you want a partner, it should only make you a better person, right? Because ideally you get with somebody you want to be better for. And then I feel bad because I know that that doesn't work out for everybody. Oh, Corey, I love you too. Um, Question for chat, was Robin Hood a good guy? Did Robin Hood steal from the rich or the government? According to the story, he stole from the government and religious officials who overtaxed the citizen. Yeah, I think that he was probably a good guy. In the story, conflict is love to some people. They care. As Kay said, your skin is pretty and it's glowing. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I feel like once again, I don't eat perfect. I ate fast food tonight, but like I've been taking a little bit better care of myself and I feel better overall. And Um, I just like I had surgery last April and it took literally 11 months to where I didn't have any, and it wasn't horrible, but just like sharp stabbing pains. They're like healing pains. They call it lightning crotch. Sorry. It's the second most common surgery in women in the country, a hysterectomy. And it's just like, you get your organs cut off and sewn together, you're gonna have like like pains and like it was the kind of thing that's like it was barely at all, but it's still like you never knew it would stop you in your tracks. You're like, oh my God. And it's like it was finally no more of that, completely healed. It just took 11 months. But, the body really is amazing, and I had, like I really don't care, but I have, like, this fine line in the middle of my forehead. You can see it right there, but I swear it's gotten a lot better, and I was thinking, I was like, "What have I done?" My sister gave me some expensive retinol that I'm not good at using, but I still do use it sometimes. You do realize aliens kidnap humans? Trump said it will investigate, shows higher powers over Oval Office, scary times to witness a craft with nine others 200 feet away. Women screaming they are real. No, Michael, I totally believe you. No, I totally believe anybody that says they witness stuff like that. I haven't seen something quite like that, but I do believe you. And sorry, it's getting when I talk for a few hours, my sinuses. I believe I just get a whoosh, meaning instinctually, I think Project Bluebeam, if you don't know what that is, supposedly it's like a military operation, although now everybody knows about it, but where they're going to have a false alien invasion. And okay, I told you guys this last stream, but I privated it because I said something I felt bad about. Amazon is hiring a lot of people. Never seen that in almost 4 years, never seen that in the middle. We know people that work there, they try to say, "Oh, it's just a thing because they need some extra help." A lot of people have been getting fired for stealing and stuff. No, this is like they've been hiring for 6 weeks now, lots of people, lots of positions. I think that Amazon, in my opinion, might be gearing up for, civil unrest, and it doesn't make any other sense. This isn't for Prime Day in June or July or whenever Prime Day is. They never had to do it before. People are only more broke and probably shopping less. I know we used to be like getting stuff probably a good like once a month, and then it's just like now we don't only Christmas and birthdays. And that's like the only time we can justify or my bio repair toothpaste. Um yeah, bring out the best in one and change for the better, Moonshiner said. You can't pretend to be something you ain't, it always falls down, Keith said. Right. And it takes 11 months. Well, you think I don't listen? Blue beam. I don't mean that about Keith, but no, it takes a lot of time to heal. No, it really does. It's what's so sad. I think marriage shouldn't be just about you guys being in therapy together, but it should be the catalyst to get you to heal from all your childhood trauma. And if it's not, excuse me, something needs to change. Actually, now that I understand money, I think Robin Hood would actually be a government agent, the Treasury introducing money into the economy, Mr. Money. You're so funny. Do you know what other birds, crazy peacocks, Thomas said? Oh my gosh, I had peacocks as a kid, and that's one thing I'll never get out of my head is the sound they make in the morning when you're waking up. The way they scream, Thomas, I'll never forget the first time I heard a peacock scream, and I didn't know what it was. And then the person we were like at somebody's house out on the porch, and this was in the town I grew up in Indiana, or like went to school in the most it was like, "That's a peacock," and we thought it was hilarious, and then we ended up seeing it, my great-grandma raised peacocks, but not when I was alive, like, before I born, and she had a bunch of peacock feathers, and I was always like, "Oh, I wish I still had peacock." "We're blue beam," AJ said. I agree, peacocks are crazy. Mr. Money said, "Anyone see the movie Animal Farm?" No, Ryan, I didn't know they had an Animal Farm movie. That's so funny, though, I started reading the book to my 9-year-old. So he might be like nonverbal, on the autism spectrum, but he doesn't like screens a lot. It's hard to find a movie or a show he'll watch, which is fine. He doesn't watch TV most days, but he will sit through like chapters of books like that. And I think that's one way I educate him. I remember with my first 2 kids getting a lot of criticism from having a lot of books for babies. They're like, "They can't even read yet. What are you doing with these books?" This was in Indiana mostly, mind you, it wasn't Kentucky. But I always thought that that was so funny. It's like, how do you expect them to like to read if you don't read to them when they're babies? I think it's peacock hunting season just came out by Angel Studios. Ryan, that's interesting. I did not know. Oh, yeah, peacocks are good to eat? I've never had it. I've never heard of that before. When we lived in Florida, they run it wild in neighborhoods. Peacocks, Mr. Carey, that's so cool. Oh my gosh, you know what I love, you guys? Alpacas. If we had tons of money and lived on land, it would only be a matter of time. Now, I love mules. They have a really long life expectancy. I don't know about alpacas, but like mules can live to be 50 years. So I just think that's a lot to take on, like an animal with such a long life expectancy. But I have a thing for mules, and I'm sorry, I can't tell the difference between a mule and a donkey, whatever. I like them both. And we live near a few. There's like 2 farms near us. Like when I leave to go into town, there's 2 different sets of white mules or donkeys or whatever they are, and I just think they're special. And, you guys, I got it too on video. I will show it soon. I was working in the garden and I looked and my neighbor's 4 cows, they have like a cow family. It's like a mom, a dad, and 2 babies. And they were all at the fence staring at me. And so I get out my phone to like take a little video, and of course the neighbors come driving down their driveway right when I'm like taking a picture of their cows. I don't think they would care. They know I'm not like I don't know if they know about my YouTube. I don't think they do, but I wouldn't show their house. But I'll show you guys, it's so cute. They have a longhorn, it's like a white longhorn, and then this, like, really pretty Jersey cow looking black cow, and it's pretty rare to have twins, right? Like, because I hardly ever see, I mean, I guess they've just been for a few years. They've had 2 babies before this, but anyways, so I saw 1 baby for, like, a few weeks, and then all of a sudden I see another baby. I don't know, maybe they got a foster baby cow, but I love cows, and when you really, like the design of they eat more greens than we could ever consume in a day, make it all into condensed, valuable nutrition for us with their milk and their meat, which I believe, and you don't have to, but I believe that that was a God-given gift. And part of the reason why we are so well off is like Nordic mythology. It states that the world started with a cosmic sacred cow and like the universe was the milk that came out of the cow, because could you imagine not having a stable steady source of food and then having dairy? I love dairy so much. We were like looking at a shopping list. It was so funny. My husband's like, God, like half of it is dairy. It's like milk, sour cream, cheese, cottage cheese, cheese sticks. We're at the top of the food chain for a reason. I don't play your 21st century head games, Ryan. um What was a joke? The animal hunter? Oh, come on, the hunting season jokes take back to Daffy Duck and, Bugs Bunny, 20th century. Yeah, everybody's cool in here. Mr. Money, a mule and a donkey walk into a bar. The bar is named I Can't Tell the Difference, Mr. Money. You've been streaming for hours. I know. I did a members only before this too. I do love dairy and beef. That's what's so oh my gosh, have you heard of Alpha Gal Moonshiner? It's so horrible. It for like 2 days, it was like a horror movie around here. We found tick after tick after tick. There was an engorged tick on the floor. I didn't know what it was, and I picked it up and I realized what it was, and it's like a freaking horror movie. And yes, we couldn't afford to get the flea and tick medicine, and now I'm like religiously checking the dogs because I don't want them to get alpha gal. I don't want them to get Lyme disease. We should be able to get it for them, but it's still going to be like a month, and it's like oh, it makes me so annoyed. The Lone Star ticks are what we're finding the most of too. The past few years, it wasn't like that. And I've known people who lived here for decades, and they all say the same thing. The ticks get worse and worse every year. I think that it's some kind of biological warfare. When you learn, if you learn about Lyme, how that started, and it was named after Lyme, Connecticut, for a reason. It's so concentrated. It's really, like, rare for a disease to literally start on a street in a town and, like, and now that it's gotten as bad as it has, we and I know there's gonna be parasites and everything, but, um, Thomas says, "I get it, it's just gonna be funny to you. That's because it's pasteurized garbage, Mr. Money. Drink raw milk." MJ, I did used to get raw milk, and then I chickened out. Well, Mr. Money, that's when you gotta eat yogurt, Thomas said. Milka still has cream. Do you have to remove it from the top? Is healthy and has probiotics naturally. Yes, MJ. So this is how I feel about after drinking it for years. I just always felt slightly like if any of us got sick, I would never forgive myself. And I know some people do boil it on, they pasteurize it. Um, my favorite kind of milk is like if I could afford it, I would get, like, the lightly pasteurized. I think there's a place in Liberty that sells it where it's, like, the as light of pasteurization as it gets, and they have sold this in, grocery stores. Usually, it's, like, in a glass gallon jug, so it's extra for that too. But, that has the cream at the top still, which is good. I want to start making my own kefir water soon. I pray for everyone tired of seeing the poor and meek suffering physically and mentally, especially the moms and children. Why is this in the greatest country ever? Trump frowns upon the poor peasants. Yes, Michael, I feel you. I feel the same way. It's horrible. There's no reason why things have to be this bad. I really feel for people that are either like old or young, and I'm like, well, Bill Gates, GMO released mosquitoes are too. Yes, I was raised on raw goat milk. Oh, that's nice, MJ. That's nice. No, I'm like in central Kentucky, abracadabra. I was born in Louisville, and I haven't been more west than like Bowling Green, which isn't that far west. If you're concerned about raw milk having any kind of pathogens, all you have to do is put silver in it. A simple silver coin is how the settlers actually kept their milk from spoiling for weeks. That makes sense, MJ. I know how like the ions work when it comes to silver, and we were just talking about silver and copper not that long ago. So that's really interesting. I've never heard that though. Um, and you know how it can be inconsistent, which I think is like a good thing that's natural. Like our orange juice isn't supposed to taste the exact same way every single bottle, and they put like flavors in the Simply Orange to make it more consistent. I love the orange juice from Costco, at least years and years ago, like, that was actual orange juice, and it would taste different, and it was always good, but, it wouldn't taste the exact same way, like Simply Orange, and, like, that's how milk is when you drink grass-fed, it can be good, and sometimes it can be just kinda gross, you know what I mean? And I would be like, "Oh, this is gross, we got, like, a grassy" you know what I mean? It doesn't always taste grassy. Silver powder 9-volt battery witness. Moonshiner, oh my god, I never lay down poison, but these gorham fleas and ticks made me buy nylar poison to spray and the rain washed out. Now I'm mad at myself. I didn't check the weather. The labor is tiring. Oh yeah, I'm sorry to hear that. Oh my goodness. Thank God we've never had a problem with fleas. I did find like a flea on my cat like a year ago and it like but we were good about the medication. And yeah. I've lived in flea-infested houses twice before, and to no fault of my own. They were rentals we moved in, and they were flea-infested, and that is something I wouldn't wish on most people. But, um, yeah, the alpha gal, the ticks, I saw this Australian 60 Minutes. It was so sad. The 16-year-old boy died. His parents said that he got bit by ticks weekly. Like he was always outside. They went to all these allergists and they knew he was getting anaphylactic from something. And nobody put the pieces together. It was so stinking sad. It was like after he passed away, they finally realized he was allergic to red meat from the alpha gal. And it's like his parents, man, I couldn't imagine. They were being really brave, like talking about it. Witness, you're talking about putting the battery in water. Yep, you can make colloidal silver as well. Yes, excuse me. I know about colloidal silver. I've bought that before, but I've never made it. I prefer orange juice from oranges. I just said. You could do the same thing for water supplies as well. It won't go stagnant. Yes, MJ, that is really interesting. That's good to know. So if you had forgive me if this is a stupid question. Sterling silver, is that the same? Is that's not the same as like pure silver? Like if you had a really good high quality sterling silver teapot, would that be something that you would use in a pinch? I truly believe what Amazon is part of the problem and switching civilization for the worse. Yeah, Thomas, just monopolization. Like Walmart started it. Walmart drove out so many mom and pop businesses that we don't even really realize how bad it made things. And then it's the same thing with Walmart. It's like makes it harder for more people to climb up the economic ladder when the small business owners and it happened with farms. I've met a handful of people with the same story about how their family owned a dairy farm. And then when they made it so you had to have 2,000 head of cattle to sell your milk to Prairie Farms or wherever, you couldn't be a dairy farm anymore. And that was just what are the odds of just a few factories I've worked at? I've seriously met 3 or 4 people that had the same story and that is part of the problem. And Amazon, I don't think it should be legal how they make products. Like, obviously, they know what's selling the most, and then how they have like ibuprofen, how they are monopolizing all the markets. And when we were growing up, they said, we don't do loan sharking here, we don't let monopolies happen. And what's going on? It's like a bunch of monopolies. And yeah, I do think that it will renew itself. 1111, make a wish, Moonshiner said. No stitches, although I have had to cauterize wounds at a time. Um, are you talking about the Claudio Silver still? Hi, GC, how are you doing tonight? Um, we are talking about the extremists, the Jews that are the Kabbalists practicing weird rituals and possibly sacrificing. If you looked into the Epstein files at all and saw the attitude of Jeffrey Epstein, and like that is what I feel like these Kabbalists, uh, it's very do as thou wilt. Like, I don't care about anything. This world is my playground, and that was very much his attitude. Um, Oh, GC, I hope you feel better soon. That sucks. Can't sleep with a cold. Oh. MJ, yes, eating and drinking out of silver prevents infection as well. That's why the royalty always had silverware. Oh, yes, that's very interesting. That makes sense. And we were talking about copper and like its properties the other day. Fendi brought that up. But yeah, it is everything we need is here, most everything. And the expensive filters we get because it filters out fluoride we can't afford right now. Alexa Pure, it's like the same thing as most water filters. There's like a layer of charcoal, a layer of some, it's like these natural things that we use, to even filter out the bad stuff. Moonshiners, BCD. Well, it was nice talking to you guys. I think I should go. It's like usually I go to bed by midnight. Although I don't mind staying up late. I'm a bit of a night owl. I always have been, but like with stuff going on in the garden, I try to maybe take Instacart orders early and then do like one or two the first part of the day. Although I didn't get one today. But yeah, it's just if we could put our feet down and not let these gig jobs, like it's insane. There was one order. It was $63. That sounds like a lot, but keep in mind it was 100 miles round trip driving from the store, okay? It was going from this town like Russell Springs all the way around Lake Cumberland, which is like this huge like spreads like all these like finger things coming out. You had to go all the way around to Monticello. I don't know if I say that right or if it's Monticello. I never learned. But it was a 3-in-1, and I was like, "That is kind of ridiculous, but I'm gonna watch it and see if it goes up to, like, I don't know, almost 80." It went down to 50. It went from 63 to 50. They're doing this on purpose to, like, give the finger to people. Oh, and Instacart gave a whopping 5 cents, 5 cents per gallon to make up for gas prices. 5 cents. 5 cents. And it it just makes me so mad, like, they need to have a class action lawsuit where they don't allow these gig jobs to adjust the prices according to, like, how many people are out. Like, we did this one order for Walmart that was, like, $37 for a handful of things, like, 14 miles away, but then the exact same order will be, like, 8, $10 during a time where there's more people out doing it. And I think that should be illegal. They shouldn't allow that. And then how do you perform checks and balances with that? And oh my gosh, it's just so much greed. I've had half in mind to be like, hey, do you want to hire me as your personal shopper? But then it's like, how do you deal with payment? And what if you paid for somebody's groceries and they didn't pay you back? I don't know. But there's been a few people that expressed that I was such a good shopper because I am. Because apparently there's so many people that'll be like, "Oh, this is heavy water. I'm not gonna take it. I'm just gonna say it's out of stock." Hi, Luke. How are you? I need what they're smoking, girl. 100 miles round trip. Yeah, like the store was here. It goes all the way around the lake, and then it was like 54 miles at that. So to get back, it'd be like 108 miles. So that's like at least $12 of gas, even in my four cylinder, right? Am I thinking right? And hours of time. It ends up not being as much as you think. You're like, "Oh, $63, that's a big order," but it takes so much time that you could probably do a few $30 orders, you know? But that's how a lot of them are. They're out in the country, and that's why they're $30. If you don't know, Instacart usually is not $30. So this is like a kind of sweet spot where there is like a Kroger's and they'll have it's ridiculous sometimes. Yeah, I guess 55 miles is about the farthest it gets from the store. But they'll have you coming from like 30 or 50 miles to get to the store to then drive another 30, 50 miles. Like, who is going to do that? But that's because they don't have that many people doing it because it's so unreliable. Okay. I'm surprised that my battery lasted this long. It was so much fun talking to you guys. Yeah, I'll just stay a little while longer, Michael. 20 miles per gallon equals $20 in gas at $5 per gallon. Excuse me. Damn, love the braids from the woods. Oh, Aaron, you're from the woods. That's nice. Okay, I'm gonna say one more thing and then I'm gonna go. It was so funny to me because if you don't know, we have our chicken run, like, kind of our backyard, like, is the woods. We didn't place this double wide here. Somebody else did it years ago, but my husband wanted to put the chicken run, like, in the woods, kinda, under the tree line. And I remember telling him before he did it, I was like, "Are you sure that's, like, a good idea? Like, we should research and see, like, what their natural habitat is," something like that. And then we looked it up and it's tree line. Like, "Are you sure they're gonna like that?" And it's like, "Oh, they're so cute, you guys." I'll check for him every once in a while. Okay, I have one mean one, okay, and that sucks. Like, it pecked my toe today. It didn't make me bleed or anything, but it just sucks. There's one that, like, charges me and pecks me every chance it gets. And, like, the others are really sweet, but I'll just, like, look out the window and I won't see them. I'll be like, girly birds," and they start running towards my voice because 'cause they're so used to me feeding them. It's such a good feeling. No, I'm not, JK. I went to Buc-ee's one time in my life, and it was the one time I will ever go. It is not for me, and it took me so long just to leave the parking lot. I hate I'm sorry. I know it's for some people. I hate crowds like that. I hate huge places where it's, like, so much input. There's too much to look at. Man, that place was like a literal nightmare. Nightmare incarnate. Oh, Mr. Carey said, "Thank you all for being here." $7 in Northern California, Michael said. Are you in Northern California, Michael? I didn't know that about. Are you just saying that? I know what you mean. I had chickens before. They're so sweet. Or they'll just see me and they come running towards me. But if I'm like, where are they at? And I can't see them. And so that happened a few times a day where they were like in the woods and I didn't see them because they freaking camouflage. Like one time the other day, a hawk flew over us, and I've had a feeling that hawk saw our birds. I can't remember the last time there was a shadow of a hawk flying over me out in the garden. Okay, I gotta go. My phone's gonna die. I love you guys so much. It was so much fun talking to you, and I really appreciate you letting me express myself. And I have such topics that are like really kind of hard to tread on, and I really, really, really appreciate you guys. And yay for 4,000. I didn't want to say it until I was like officially well over 4,000, but I think I am well over enough now that I'm not gonna dip down back below. So we're gonna continue to grow. I appreciate all of you guys. I love you so much. Good night.